divine and mysterious immortality. I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 501, Come to Discuss. The next day, looking at the 5 array plates placed in front of him, Wei Hong couldn't help showing a trace of satisfaction and joy on his face. The refining of array plates is actually not difficult, and it does not require complicated steps and techniques like refining tools. Therefore, Wei Hong refined a total of 5 array plates in one night. 3 of them are array plates of the Heavenly Wind Cold Array, and the other 2 are array plates of the first level middle grade 4 Symbols Array and the first level middle grade Fire Dragon Array. With the cooperation of array plates and array flags, he can set up the corresponding array at any time and any place. The first level middle grade 4 Symbols Array is mainly defensive, and the Heavenly Wind Cold Array and Fire Dragon Array are mainly offensive and defensive. With two-pronged approach, it can be said to be both offensive and defensive. In this way, with the protection of the array, Wei Hong is confident that no matter how chaotic the market is, no matter how chaotic the outside world is, it will not have much impact on him. As long as there are no cultivators in the late stage of key training besieging him, he can always be safe and sound. Very good, with these array plates, I am not afraid even if I leave the courtyard. Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction, then put away the 5 array plates directly, thinking, the next step is to improve my proficiency in setting up the Heavenly Wind Cold Fierce Array as soon as possible. As long as I can skillfully set up the Heavenly Wind Cold Fierce Array, I can add one more trump card. Relying on the power of the first level Superior Array, even a cultivator in the late stage of key training can be killed alive in the array. Such means are absolutely unimaginable for ordinary casual cultivators, and it is also difficult to resist, so it is not surprising that Wei Hong used his trump card on the spot. At this time, Wei Hong suddenly became quiet, and then listened quietly to the movement outside, wanting to see how chaotic the market has become. After a while, he shook his head and stopped paying attention to the situation outside. The market is in chaos. Now, whether it is elixir, talisman, spiritual rice, or monster meat, these materials have all become the most scarce and most sought-after things. It is estimated that they can no longer be bought with money. Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart. Thinking of this, he immediately began to count his various supplies. After all, he could practice without relying on pills or using talismans, but he absolutely could not live without food, so daily necessities became the most important resource that limited how long he could live in the courtyard. There is no shortage of pills and talismans for the time being. I bought a lot on the black market, so practicing is not a problem. Slowly counting the supplies he had in his hands, Wei Hong said to himself, there is no shortage of spiritual stones, and the materials needed for drawing talismans are also available, but the materials needed for alchemy cannot be found for the time being, and the alchemy room cannot be used for the time being. The most important thing right now is spiritual rice and monster meat. Fortunately, I have the habit of storing spiritual rice and monster meat before, but according to my consumption rate, these spiritual rice and monster meat can only support my needs for half a month at most. After half a month, I will need to find a way to buy daily necessities again, or rob daily necessities. Although he has not left the courtyard yet, and the chaos in the outside world is just his own guess, but there is no need to think too much. Judging from the current situation, it is impossible for any store in the market to be open at this time, and the normal way to buy spiritual rice and other daily necessities has been lost. In this case, maybe he will have to rob in the end. Wei Hong's eyes flashed with a strange light, and he obviously did not reject the act of robbing supplies. After all, in this chaotic market, even if he did not make a move, others would have their eyes on him. In this case, what should he be cautious about? There is no need to have any psychological burden. In this case, we must practice the newly bought spells and formations as soon as possible within half a month. Otherwise, if we don't have the power to protect ourselves, we will become prey for others even if we go out. After taking stock of the various daily necessities on hand, Wei Hong secretly finalized the next arrangements. He bought quite a lot of things in the black market, including 5 first-grade top-grade spells, 8 first-grade top-grade talismans, 3 first-grade top-grade pill recipes, and a first-grade top-grade green sword, a first-grade top-grade 4 elephant dragon belt, and a first-grade top-grade robe. At present, there is no time to study the spells and the recipes, so I can only put them aside for now. The 3 first-grade magic tools can be used immediately, but Wei Hong needs to be more familiar with them. The remaining 5 first-grade magic spells require Wei Hong to practice more to fully exert the power of the spells. As long as he can skillfully use the 5 newly acquired spells, his strength can be further increased. At this time, Wei Hong needs to take out everything that can enhance his own strength, otherwise, under the siege of this strange fog that can be called a catastrophe, he probably can't even save his life. After finalizing various matters and arrangements, Wei Hong began to make various preparations. The 3rd day the market was still in chaos, and all kinds of smashing, looting and burning did not stop. Just when Wei Hong was practicing spells, there was an unexpected knock on the door. "Is Dao Yaoguan here? I am Chen Yan, and I hope Dao Yaoguan will show up." A crisp female voice sounded outside the door. Chen Yan. After hearing this voice, Wei Hong couldn't help but frown. He was a little surprised. What could Chen Yan come to him for at this time? When he rented this independent courtyard, he always used the identity of Guan Yu, the array master, to the outside world. Before, he got along best with Taoist Jin and Chen Yan, but Taoist Jin had died on the front line of clearing the strange fog, and the remaining few people gradually reduced their contacts due to various reasons. Wei Hong didn't expect Chen Yan to come to him at this time. After thinking about it, he still shouted to the outside, "Dao Yao Chen? What's the matter?" In this chaotic period, the identity of the person outside the door is still uncertain, and Wei Hong didn't dare to open the array rashly, lest the strangely possessed person take advantage of it. Hearing Wei Hong's reply, Chen Yan outside the door seemed to become happy. She immediately said, "Dao Yaoguan, I want to discuss something with you. I hope that Dao Yaoguan can give me a chance. I will definitely reward you." Something to discuss. Wei Hong became more confused. However, he did not refuse this matter immediately, and walked to the door and opened the gate of the courtyard. The several layers of formations he set up directly covered the entire courtyard from the outside, so opening the gate had no effect. As long as the formation was not opened, people outside could not come in. After opening the gate, Wei Hong looked intently. Sure enough, a pretty female cultivator was standing not far from the gate. This person looked a little anxious and sad, but Wei Hong was quite familiar with her. It was Chen Yan. Chapter 502, Profit and Social Etiquette. In front of the courtyard, Chen Yan's eyes lit up when she saw Wei Hong open the gate. She immediately suppressed the anxiety and worry on her face, and then said to Wei Hong, "Fellow Taoist Guan, I hope you don't mind me coming to disturb you without permission, but I do have something urgent to discuss with you. I wonder if you can give me a chance." Before coming, Chen Yan was actually not sure whether Wei Hong was at home, and she had even prepared to return home disappointed. However, now that she saw Wei Hong could come out to meet her, her hope was raised. Wei Hong first stared at Chen Yan carefully for a while, and then frowned and said, "I can't say I blame you, but I don't know what exactly does fellow Taoist Chen want to find me for? Why are you so anxious?" He had no intention of opening the formation immediately, even though Chen Yan looked normal. Chen Yan also knew that her move was a bit rash and it was not easy to gain people's trust, so she immediately explained, "Fellow Taoist Guan, I know that you are a formation master and have studied formations, so I would like to ask you to set up a formation for my residence, preferably a defensive formation. If you agree, I will reward you generously." This was the second time Chen Yan said that she would reward Wei Hong generously. She also knew that Wei Hong would definitely not open the door for her if she didn't explain it clearly, and if there was no huge profit, Wei Hong would not help her set up the formation, so her sincerity was very obvious. At this time, in order to gain Wei Hong's trust, Chen Yan said again, "If you think that I have been possessed by a strange spirit, you can test it. I will never resist." After saying that, she stared at Wei Hong with a burning gaze. Wei Hong thought for a while, waved his hand and said, "There is no need for the test. Fellow Taoist Chen, please come in and talk." With a wave of his hand, several layers of formations outside the door suddenly opened a passage. Chen Yan was overjoyed. "Thank you, Taoist fellow Guan." After that, she walked into the courtyard without hesitation. When Chen Yan came in, Wei Hong immediately restored the formation. In fact, during this process, he had been keeping a close eye on Chen Yan and was always on guard. Fortunately, Chen Yan was very sensible and did not make any moves. It was not until this time that Wei Hong really confirmed that the person in front of him was indeed Chen Yan, not an evil spirit possessed by a strange thing. Moreover, Chen Yan had already entered the formation. If she really had ill intentions, Wei Hong would naturally have a way to let her know what despair was, because this was his home court. Taoist fellow Chen, please sit down. Wei Hong motioned Chen Yan to sit on the stone bench in the courtyard. Chen Yan thanked him first, and then sat down and said to Wei Hong, "Fellow Taoist Guan, I know this is a bit difficult, but you also know what the situation is like in the market now. I really have no choice but to come to you for help." Wei Hong nodded and replied lightly, "I understand, but the current situation is indeed chaotic, so Guan is not afraid to tell fellow Taoist Chen that although Guan has studied the formation a little, he is not proficient in it, and there is no suitable formation equipment on hand for the time being, so I am afraid that fellow Taoist Chen will be disappointed." In fact, he rejected Chen Yan's request from the bottom of his heart. It's not that he is cold-blooded, nor that he doesn't want to take the opportunity to make a fortune, but he really doesn't want to stand out and attract attention at this time, so as not to cause himself unnecessary trouble. Therefore, he rejected Chen Yan very tactfully. But Chen Yan didn't give up at all. She gritted her teeth and said, "Fellow Taoist Guan, I know your difficulties. I only ask you to set up a defensive formation for me, preferably a defensive formation of the first level or above. If you don't have the equipment to set up the formation, I can find the materials for you and pay you 500 spirit stones as a reward afterwards. I hope you can help me this time. If you have other requests, I will never refuse." For her own safety, Chen Yan was obviously ready to bleed heavily. After all, compared with her own life, other things are not really important. As long as she can save her life, other things can be earned back even if they are lost. Chen Yan saw these problems very clearly, so she didn't hesitate to offer a huge profit to ask Wei Hong for help. And she didn't mention their friendship at all, as if she was treating this matter as a transaction. This was obviously a very smart approach, and it also left enough room for both parties to deal with it, and even made Wei Hong have the idea of not knowing how to refuse, which made Wei Hong look up to her. Wei Hong looked at Chen Yan deeply, and after a moment of silence, he said, "Okay, since fellow Taoist Chen has said so much, it would be a bit unkind of me not to help." But at this point, Wei Hong paused and looked at Chen Yan. Chen Yan was overjoyed when she heard Wei Hong's agreement. At this time, she was very tactful and said, "Fellow Taoist Guan, please speak directly. I will never refuse anything I can do. If fellow Taoist Guan feels that the reward is not enough, you can add more." Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction and said, "The reward is as fellow Taoist Chen said, which is 500 spirit stones. I don't need fellow Taoist Chen to find materials for refining array equipment for me. Just think of it as fellow Taoist Chen owes me a favor. I hope fellow Taoist Chen will not refuse when I need it." As for Chen Yan, Wei Hong actually thought that this person had a good temperament and was not bad at dealing with people, so he planned to help Chen Yan. Of course, the remuneration should be collected, and the favors should be asked. He would not be so stupid as to regard friendship as a favor. As expected, Chen Yan's face was full of joy when she heard the words. She hurriedly responded, "No problem, I will do as Taoist Guan said. If Taoist Guan has any instructions in the future, I will definitely do my best to wait for Taoist Guan's orders." It only cost 500 spirit stones, plus owe a favor to Wei Hong to agree to help her set up the formation. This made Chen Yan feel very surprised, and even the price was much lower than she expected. You know, now there are people outside who have offered a price of thousands of spirit stones, just asking a formation master to set up a defensive formation for them, and this price is even going to continue to rise. It is conceivable that Wei Hong's agreement to help this time is definitely based on their past friendship. Chen Yan is also very clear about this, so she behaves very sensibly. Very good, Taoist Chen's words are enough. Wei Hong nodded with satisfaction. He was about to continue talking when there was another knock on the door. "Huh? What's going on? Someone is looking for me again." Wei Hong frowned in surprise. Chapter 503, suddenly realized. The courtyard suddenly became quiet. Wei Hong frowned slightly, his face full of confusion. Chen Yan seemed to have thought of something. She was a little nervous at first, but she relaxed immediately, and a slightly smug smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. When Wei Hong opened the door again with a puzzled look on his face, he instantly understood the change in Chen Yan's expression. Because at this moment, There were 4 monks standing in front of the gate of the courtyard. These 4 people were all Wei Hong's neighbors, and like Chen Yan, they were also the ones who interacted with him more. One of them was Jia Heng, and the other 3 were Yu Chang, Xiao Guang and Xia Mingji. Seeing Jia Heng and the other 4 coming together, standing outside the gate looking at his courtyard with anxiety and expectation, Wei Hong was even more surprised, and then he immediately realized something. Only then did he understand why Chen Yan had such a strange reaction after hearing the knock on the door just now. She clearly anticipated who was coming, and then she couldn't help but feel a little proud in her heart, because she had already got Wei Hong's promise first. These thoughts flashed through Wei Hong's mind. A look of surprise appeared on his face. He asked, "How come the 4 Taoist friends are here by chance? Are you all here to see Guan?" "Haha, please forgive me, Guan Dao Iao." Jia Heng took a small step forward and bowed to Wei Hong, saying, "The 4 of us are indeed here to see Guan Dao Iao, but it's not a coincidence. We 4 have agreed to come together to see Guan Dao Iao. I hope Guan Dao Iao will let us go in and talk in detail." Wei Hong knew without thinking why Jia Heng and his 4 companions came together. However, it was really inappropriate to let Jia Heng and his 4 companions stand outside the door. He didn't want anyone to notice the situation in his courtyard, so he stretched out his hand and said, "The 4 Taoist friends, please come in quickly. Guan Dao Iao is being inconsiderate." "Haha, thank you, Guan Dao Iao. You're too polite, Guan Dao Iao." Jia Heng and his 4 companions greeted Wei Hong with a smile before entering the courtyard. However, after entering the courtyard, Jia Heng and his 4 companions were slightly stunned. Because Chen Yan was standing there looking at Jia Heng and his 4 companions who walked into the courtyard. Chen Yan, greet the 4 Daoists. Chen Yan, who had already stood up, smiled and took the initiative to greet Jia Heng and his 4 companions. Jia Heng and his 4 companions did not expect that Chen Yan would actually arrive here before them. "Dao Iao Chen, no wonder we couldn't find you at your residence. It turns out that you have arrived here before us, Dao Iao Guan." Jia Heng was stunned for a while, and then he said with a bitter smile in sudden enlightenment. It turned out that they had looked for Chen Yan before coming here, but they just didn't find her. "Yes, I didn't expect Dao Iao Chen to have arrived first, which made it easier for us to find her. Haha, it seems that Dao Iao Chen is more far-sighted." The other 3 also smiled and greeted Chen Yan, and they already knew each other's intentions. However, Jia Heng and his 4 companions secretly regretted in their hearts why they didn't come earlier. After all, if they were the first to come to Wei Hong, they might be more confident in convincing Wei Hong to help them. However, Jia Heng and the other 3 did not show any abnormality on their faces, but acted as usual. After Wei Hong asked the 4 to sit down, he took out a set of tea sets from the bedroom and placed them on the stone table, then brewed a pot of tea and poured a cup for each of them. Jia Heng and the other 4 thanked him and took a sip of the tea. After putting down the teacup, Jia Heng looked at Chen Yan intentionally or unintentionally, and asked with a smile, "Did fellow Taoist Chen come here so early in the morning?" While talking, the other 3 Xiao Guang could not help but look at Chen Yan. Because they all understood Jia Heng's implication, which was to ask Chen Yan whether she had achieved her wish. Chen Yan first glanced at Wei Hong, then smiled and replied, "That's not the case. I just sat down and Dao Iao Jia and his friends followed me." Although Chen Yan had already received Wei Hong's promise, she didn't dare to reveal it without Wei Hong's permission, so she could only pretend to be perfunctory. "Haha, if we had known earlier, we would have gone to Dao Iao Chen earlier." Jia Heng smiled and changed the subject, then looked directly at Wei Hong and said, "Dao Iao Guan, I don't know why Dao Iao Chen came this time, but we came to see Dao Iao this time because we do have something important to discuss with Dao Iao." Jia Heng intended to get straight to the point with Wei Hong, but he didn't include Chen Yan. Obviously, he was also a little resentful, resenting Chen Yan for not treating them as her own people and coming to see Wei Hong alone. Chen Yan's face changed slightly when she heard this, but she recovered immediately. Before Wei Hong could speak, Chen Yan smiled and said, "Fellow Daoists, there is no need for us to test each other any further. I believe that your intentions are the same as mine, and we all need your help. We should not have any rifts at this time, don't you think?" As soon as these words came out, the scene suddenly became quiet. However, Jia Heng was not an ordinary person. He looked at Chen Yan with a little surprise, and then nodded and said, "Yes, what fellow Taoist Chen said is very true. The other three Xiao Guang also nodded, obviously not wanting to have any dirty dealings with Chen Yan because of these trivial matters. Wei Hong had been silent all the time, and only spoke up at this time. Fellow Taoist Jia, and several other fellow Daoists, I wonder why you came to see me. Fellow Taoist Guan, please forgive me, I didn't mean anything else. Jia Heng first apologized, and then said bluntly, in fact, fellow Taoist Guan should have guessed it. There are two things for us to come to you. The first is to ask you to set up a defensive magic circle for our residents to protect our safety. Fellow Taoist Guan, you also know that the market is in chaos now, and anything can happen. For our own safety, we have no choice but to ask you for help. I also know that this matter will definitely make fellow Taoist Guan embarrassed, but we really have no other choice. I hope that fellow Taoist Guan can help us for the sake of our past friendship. Of course, we will never let Guan Taoist work in vain. Each of us is willing to take out 500 spirit stones as a reward for Guan Taoist's help. If Guan Taoist has other requests, we can agree to them. Obviously, Jia Heng and the other three were just like Chen Yan. For the sake of their own lives, they were willing to spend a large amount of spirit stones to ask Wei Hong to help. They even offered the same reward. After all, in the market today, if there is no formation to protect them, people really don't feel safe at all. Someone might sneak into their residence and attack them at any time. They don't want to encounter such a thing. Chapter 504, Recruiting, Alone. Wei Hong remained silent. After Jia Heng finished speaking, they all looked at Wei Hong with hope. Even Chen Yan did the same, even though she had already received Wei Hong's promise. Now Wei Hong was related to the safety of several of them, and whether it could be accomplished depended on his words. Wei Hong was silent for a while, but did not respond immediately. Instead, he asked about other things. Fellow Taoist Jia, let's not talk about the formation first. Guan has not been out for the past few days. I don't know what the situation is in the market now. Can you tell me? To be honest, Wei Hong had already anticipated the intention of Jia Heng and others, but he had not really thought about whether to help or not, so he avoided the topic and turned to ask about the situation in the market. This was also a little time for him to consider. Although Jia Heng did not get an immediate response from Wei Hong, there was no disappointment on his face, and he was obviously a person who did not show his emotions on his face. He immediately said, of course, it is definitely a wise move for Brother Guan not to go out. You don't know, this market is in chaos right now. Since the Qingayan sect closed the mountain the day before yesterday, many shops have closed one after another. They no longer sell anything to the outside world, and no one sets up stalls. As a result, those shops have directly incurred public anger, and many cultivators began to smash the shops and steal goods, and then a large number of cultivators followed suit. As of today, except for a few large shops such as the Treasure Pavilion, the rest of the shops have basically all been robbed and smashed, and many people even killed people at will. Jia Heng told him what he knew. Xiao Guang at the side added, Friend Guan, you don't know, at least thousands of people have been killed or injured in the market in the past 2 days, and all kinds of miserable corpses can be seen everywhere, and no one has collected the bodies. That's right, when I went out yesterday, I saw a group of masked monks slaughtering lone monks wantonly. Fortunately, I went out with friend Xia, otherwise I might have suffered the murderous hands of others. Yu Cheng on the side was even more frightened, and it was obvious that he was very worried about the chaos in the market. Xia Mingji calmed down a bit, and frowned as he said, now many people lack spiritual rice and monster meat. Anyone who travels alone may be robbed or even slaughtered. As a result, no one travels alone in the market. At least they have to travel in pairs or groups. I heard that many people in the market have started to gather together for warmth. As far as I know, Zheng Laoge in the west of the city, Wang Xianhui in the south of the city, and Wu Manzi, a free cultivator at the peak of key training, are all recruiting people. They have gathered many cultivators under their command and have become their own forces. Jia Heng and the other four talked to Wei Hong one after another, telling him all the news they heard, the chaotic scenes they saw, and how many people died in the market. Even Chen Yan, who was next to him, added a few words from time to time, which immediately gave Wei Hong a clearer understanding of the current situation in the market. Wei Hong also frowned as he listened to this. He did not expect the situation to be even more chaotic than he imagined. According to what you said, the market has basically become a world of many forces. If you don't stick together or join a force, Won't you be unable to survive in the market? Wei Hong frowned, his face a little ugly. Although he had expected this, the development of the situation still made Wei Hong feel a little frightened. He did not expect that the situation in the market had changed drastically in just 2 or 3 days. Jia Heng nodded and said with a serious face, "That's right. Now in the market town, forces of all sizes have sprung up like mushrooms after a rain. Everyone is banding together, and those who are powerful are forming forces in order to survive in this chaotic situation. So what you said just now, Brother Guan, is absolutely correct. Now the market town has become the world of major forces. If you want to stay out of trouble and don't join forces or band together, it will be really difficult to survive. In fact, this is another reason why we came to Brother Guan." An inexplicable light flashed in Wei Hong's eyes. He couldn't help but look at Jia Heng, frowned and asked, "What does Brother Jia mean?" "Yes, it's banding together." Jia Heng nodded very affirmatively, and then said sincerely, "Brother Guan, you know the details of us, and we are also clear about Brother Guan's character. What's more, we are neighbors and familiar with each other. We are simply the most suitable group to band together. As long as we form a small group, we won't be afraid of being bullied by other groups. At least we won't be alone and we can avoid being killed and robbed. What do you think, fellow Taoist Guan?" After saying that, Jia Heng looked at Wei Hong with hope. "Yes, fellow Taoist Guan, this matter will definitely benefit us. Yes, 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 we have discussed it and are waiting for your nod. Fellow Taoist Guan, we are just helping each other and surviving in this chaotic situation. We won't do anything else. What do you think?" Xiao Guang, Yu Cheng and Xiaomingji also tried to persuade him. Obviously, they all wanted to attract Wei Hong, the formation master, to their small group, so that the small group would be stronger and less likely to be targeted. Among them, only Wei Hong and Jia Heng are in the late stage of key training. The rest, including Chen Yan, are only in the 6th stage of key training. If Wei Hong can be recruited, the benefits are self-evident. At this time, Chen Yan, who was standing aside, also persuaded, "Fellow Taoist Guan, I think what fellow Taoist Jia said makes sense. In such a situation, it is a trend to form a group, and no one can avoid it. In this case, why don't we form a group, help each other, and resist foreign enemies, don't you think?" As a female cultivator, Chen Yan was naturally very willing to join such a group, so she was also willing to recruit Wei Hong for the group, which was also a way to express her attitude to Jia Heng and others. As expected, Jia Heng immediately cast an admiring look at Chen Yan. Wei Hong was silent at this time, looking as if he was considering. Upon seeing this, Jia Heng advised, "Friend Guan, if you have any concerns, please speak up. If you need our help, please also speak up." After saying that, Jia Heng and the others stared at Wei Hong with burning eyes. Chapter 505, Deploy the Formation and Win Over. Several eyes with great expectations were focused on Wei Hong. Jia Heng and his friends all hoped to pull Wei Hong into their small group. The role and energy of a formation master were definitely not comparable to those of an ordinary casual cultivator. Moreover, Wei Hong was a cultivator in the late stage of key training. Just from the perspective of cultivation, he was worthy of the persuasion. However, what they waited for was Wei Hong's refusal. Wei Hong pondered for a long time, and then slowly said in the expectant eyes of Jia Heng and his friends, "I'm sorry, I may disappoint you fellow Taoists. Guan Mu actually has no idea of forming a group or joining a force. Guan Mu just wants to practice well and doesn't want these troubles to disturb his life." Wei Hong's eyes were firm and he shook his head. Jia Heng and his friends were stunned. They didn't expect that they said so much, but in the end they couldn't persuade Wei Hong. He actually chose to refuse. "No, fellow Taoist Guan, if we stick together, there won't be any troubles, and it won't affect your life. The purpose of sticking together is just to help each other. Why don't you reconsider it?" Jia Heng's face changed slightly, and he tried to persuade him again. "Yes, fellow Taoist Guan, why don't you reconsider it? Fellow Taoist Guan, if we stick together, we won't get involved in other things in the market, you can rest assured about that. Yes, if we stick together, we will not be bullied by others, how can it disrupt our lives?" Xia Mingji and Chen Yan continued to persuade him, obviously not wanting Wei Hong, the formation master, to leave their small group. However, no matter how Jia Heng and the others tried to persuade him, Wei Hong still did not change his mind. He said with a firm face, My fellow Daoists, there is no need to say anything. Guan will never join any group or any force. It's not that Guan has any opinion on you, but Guan just wants to live his own life alone and does not want to be disturbed. How can I not be disturbed? Xiao Guang was the most impatient. He said with disbelief on his face, in this chaotic situation, who can guarantee that they will not be affected or disturbed? Those bloodthirsty cultivators outside don't care what you think. Once they target you, even if Guan Daoist has formations to protect you, your safety cannot be guaranteed. There is no need to say more about this issue. Guan has his own confidence. Wei Hong was not affected at all, and said decisively, with the several formations set up by Guan, it is not a problem to block some peeping cultivators. Having said this, facing Wei Hong, who was so determined and did not change his mind at all, Jia Heng and the others could not help but look at each other, but they were helpless. Obviously, Wei Hong had already made up his mind not to join their group. Such a result disappointed Jia Heng and his friends. However, Wei Hong smiled and said, fellow Daoists, although Guan will not join your group, he can promise to set up a formation for you. As soon as these words came out, Jia Heng and his friends, who were originally a little disappointed, were overjoyed. Really? Daoist Guan agreed to set up a formation for us. Jia Heng's face lit up, and he immediately put aside his previous disappointment. After all, compared with sticking together, it was obviously more important for Wei Hong to set up a formation for them. Because there is a huge difference between the protection of a formation and that of no formation, and a courtyard with a formation protection is not easy to be targeted. Xiao Guang, Xia Mingji and the other two were also full of joy, and hurriedly thanked Wei Hong. But Wei Hong waved his hand and said solemnly, don't thank me yet. Although Guan has agreed to set up the formation for you fellow Daoists, he also has requirements. Please tell me, fellow Taoist Guan. We will never refuse if we can do it. Jia Heng agreed without thinking. Okay, then I'll tell you. Wei Hong looked at Jia Heng and the others, and said slowly, I have a first-grade mid-grade defensive formation on hand, called the Four Symbols Formation, which should be enough to meet the needs of several fellow Daoists. But I have a few requirements. First, to set up the Four Symbols Formation, you need to refine the formation flags. You fellow Daoists are responsible for finding the materials for refining the formation flags, and then hand them over to me to refine. After refining, I will set up the formation for you fellow Daoists. Second, the reward for setting up the formation will be as you fellow Daoists said before. You will pay me 500 spirit stones afterwards. In addition, you fellow Daoists need each of you to find enough spiritual rice and monster meat for me to eat for 10 days. Third, the matter of setting up the formation is only up to you. You fellow Daoists must keep it confidential. It is not allowed to spread it outside, and you are not allowed to bring other people here. If you can agree to these requirements, then I will set up the formation for you fellow Daoists as soon as possible. What do you think? After speaking, Wei Hong's eyes swept back and forth on the faces of Jia Heng and the others. Jia Heng and his companions were slightly stunned at first, and then they immediately frowned. They didn't expect that Wei Hong had so many requests. Jia Heng and his companions couldn't help but look at each other, and then Jia Heng said with a little embarrassment, fellow Daoist Guan, it is absolutely no problem for us to be responsible for finding all the materials for refining the formation flags. The reward of 500 spirit stones is also reasonable, but the spiritual rice and monster meat for 10 days are not easy to find now. It should be said that there is no way to buy them at all. Yes, fellow Daoist Guan, how about you change this request? Fellow Daoist Guan, how about we pay you another 100 spirit stones? Keeping it secret is not a problem, but the spiritual rice and monster meat are really hard to find. Xiao Guang and the other two also felt a little embarrassed about the second request. After all, the current situation is no longer the same as before. If they want to buy spiritual rice and monster meat, they can't find a way even if they have money, and they don't even have much food on hand. Seeing the embarrassed expressions on Jia Heng's faces, Wei Hong also sighed secretly in his heart. He just wanted to give it a try. If it works, it would be the best. He wouldn't have to risk going out to look for supplies. Now that Jia Heng and his friends are embarrassed, he naturally needs to change the conditions. So Wei Hong pretended to ponder for a moment before saying, in this case, let's change it to a situation where all of you Daoists owe Guan a favor, and you can do something for Guan within your ability in the future. Compared to spiritual stones, he prefers favors. After this condition was changed, Jia Heng was the first to make the decision and said, "Okay, let's do as Taoist Guan said. Jia will never break his promise." "Okay," Xiao also agreed, "and will never disclose this matter." "Yes, I agree too, thank you Taoist Guan." "No problem, just do as Taoist Guan said." Xiao Guang, Xia Mingji and the other two also agreed without thinking too much. After all, the time now is different from the past. It is already an honor for them to ask Wei Hong for help. Just some spirit stones and a favor can be exchanged for a protective formation. This is naturally something that they can accept. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 506, Shame on You? The courtyard was quiet again. Looking at the backs of Jia Heng and his companions as they left, Wei Hong fell into silence. Perhaps he had not anticipated this before Chen Yan and his companions came to visit him, but he had already reacted after they came to visit him. The chaos in the market was accompanied by a major reshuffle. He had anticipated the trend of a major reshuffle, but he did not expect it to come so quickly and violently. In just less than 3 days, various forces of all sizes began to emerge in the market, just like mushrooms after rain, and they could not be stopped at all. The visit of Chen Yan and his companions actually indicated that the chaos in the market had reached a new height. Those casual cultivators living in wooden huts might not know when they would die. The water mist array arranged in the independent courtyard could no longer meet the needs of Chen Yan and his companions, and they urgently needed a greater sense of security. This proved that a larger and more chaotic situation was coming rapidly, and if they were not careful, they might be swallowed up by the chaos, and then nothing would be left. Damn it, is it so chaotic now that even the independent courtyard is not safe? Wei Hong shook his head and sighed, and then immediately thought, I still can't go out for the time being. It's too dangerous outside. I must make more preparations. I must also speed up the practice of spells and formations. The arrival of Chen Yan and others made Wei Hong feel a sense of crisis again. He did not agree to join Jia Heng and others, not only because he did not want to be involved in such troubles, but also because he was very confident in his formation. The most important thing is that many things on him cannot be revealed, so he just wants to live alone to protect himself and does not want to join any force. However, the tree wants to be quiet, but the wind does not stop. Wei Hong, who wanted to keep a low profile and live alone, was still visited by many people who heard the news. The day after Jia Heng and others came to the door, 3 more people came to the door of Wei Hong's courtyard. However, these 3 people were all unfamiliar faces, and Wei Hong had never seen them before. Who are you looking for? 3 Taoist friends. After opening the door, Wei Hong asked with a sullen face. The horse-faced old man in the middle of the 3 saw Wei Hong appear, and smiled kindly. This is Guan Yu, right? I am Ding Jianming. I heard that Guan Yu has studied a lot about formations, so I came to visit you today. Through the formation, Wei Hong could still feel that the smile on the horse-faced old man's face was obviously fake. He shook his head and said bluntly, Ding Yu, Guan Yu actually doesn't know much about formations. I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. He had no intention of opening the door to let Ding Jianming and the other 2 in. Ding Jianming's eyes flashed with a strange color, but his face did not change. Instead, he continued to smile and said, Haha, Guan Yu is too modest. You have a great reputation. Ding Yu came uninvited this time. I hope you won't mind. Can we sit down and talk in detail? There's no need to talk in detail. I know what you want to do. I can answer you now. Guan Yu has no intention of joining any forces. Ding Yu, please go back. Wei Hong refused without thinking. Ding Jianming was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Wei Hong to be so direct. Even before he really stated his intention, he was rejected by Wei Hong. The 2 middle-aged cultivators next to Ding Jianming changed their expressions and looked at Wei Hong with unfriendly eyes. Wei Hong seemed not to notice and just looked at Ding Jianming indifferently. The horse-faced old man Ding Jianming was not angry. He just smiled bitterly and said, Dao Guan is really direct. However, Ding still hopes that Dao Guan can listen to me. I believe that Dao Guan is clear about the current situation in the market. Many forces of all sizes have also appeared. The original intention of the Mutual Aid Association we formed is to help the cultivators in the association survive, so we urgently need formation masters like Dao Iagwan to join. Dao Iagwan, please don't rush to refuse. If Dao Iagwan can join us, Ding is willing to give Dao Iao 1,000 spirit stones, and can even guarantee that Dao Iagwan has enough spirit rice and monster meat every day. I hope Dao Iao can consider it. Ding Jianming was still unwilling to give up and directly offered a huge profit to tempt Wei Hong. It must be said that this condition is enough to make ordinary cultivators excited. But Wei Hong shook his head firmly and still refused coldly. No need, fellow Taoisting, there is no need to say anything more. Guan will not join any force. Fellow Taoisting, please do as you please. This. Ding Jianming was dumbfounded. After Wei Hong finished speaking, he closed the door directly, not caring about the reaction of the three people outside. But this kind of thing did not end. In the evening, 4 more people came in front of the gate of the courtyard, and they looked ill-intentioned. The leader was a sturdy man with a fierce look, and his cultivation reached the 8th level of key training. He saw that Wei Hong did not mean to invite them in after opening the door, but instead separated them from the formation. The sturdy cultivator's face flashed a trace of suspicion at the first time, but he did not attack immediately. Who are you looking for, fellow Daoists? Wei Hong frowned and asked. In fact, he had already decided in his heart that next time, no matter who knocked on the door or shouted, he would not respond, and would not show up again, so as not to be disturbed endlessly. The sturdy monk grinned and said, Dao Iagwan, right? I am Hong Meng, the head of the White Tiger Society. I heard that Dao Iagwan is a formation master, so I came here to invite Dao Iagwan to join our White Tiger Society. Dao Iagwan, don't worry. After you join the White Tiger Society, no one will dare to take advantage of you. Our White Tiger Society is one of the best forces. The sturdy monk Hong Meng looked very confident and made an invitation to Wei Hong in an extremely strong manner. However, this invitation did not sound like an invitation, but more like alms. It was as if Hong Meng was giving Wei Hong a chance to join the White Tiger Society, and there was no real invitation at all. After hearing this, Wei Hong naturally didn't even bother to give an expression, and said coldly, I'm not interested. If you don't have anything else to do, just leave. After saying that, Wei Hong wanted to close the door immediately. However, Wei Hong's words made Hong Meng's face immediately gloomy. He sneered immediately, Friend Guan, you'd better think it over carefully. If you don't join our White Tiger Society, no one will be able to save you when you are targeted. You're just a formation master. Do you really think you are someone important? That's right. You even dare to refuse the invitation of our boss. Are you really not afraid of death? How dare you? Don't be shameless. The few people who followed Hong Meng seemed to have found an opportunity to show their loyalty. They immediately scolded and threatened Wei Hong with a bad face. Chapter 507, Threats, Cruel. Wei Hong sneered. He didn't expect that Hong Meng and his men would turn hostile and threaten him just because he refused. Wei Hong really didn't take such a person who showed his emotions on his face seriously. He didn't even look at those lackeys, but stared at Hong Meng with cold eyes, then sneered, Very good, if the invitation doesn't work, then threaten. The leader of the White Tiger Society is really good at doing things, but Guan wants to ask a question. Who do you think you are, Hong Meng? Are you worthy of inviting me? And the rest of you, if you have the guts, just step into my yard and see if Guan can kill you here. The chilling cold eyes swept over Hong Meng and his men in an instant. The lackeys behind Hong Meng seemed to be stared at by a terrifying beast. They were so scared that their faces turned pale and they dared not say another word. Hong Meng's face was livid, and his eyes were about to spit fire. He immediately laughed in anger and said, Good, very good, Guan Dao Iao is really brave. He even ignores me. I hope Guan Dao Iao will not regret it. After saying that, Hong Meng immediately left with a wave of his sleeves. As for those lackeys, they didn't even dare to say a word of cruel words at this time. They immediately followed Hong Meng and left quickly. As for stepping into the formation, that was something they didn't even dare to think about. Humph, don't push me. Looking at Hong Meng's departing back, Wei Hong's eyes flashed a trace of bloodthirsty and fierce color. Although he was low-key and didn't want to cause trouble, it didn't mean that he was really afraid of trouble. This White Tiger Society failed to invite him and changed to threats, which hit Wei Hong's gun muzzle, making him extremely angry. This is why he tore his face with Hong Meng and said cruel words. Fortunately, the effect was not bad. His fierce and confident attitude made Hong Meng dare not act rashly. Seeing Hong Meng and others leave, Wei Hong also slammed the door of the courtyard completely. Then, in the next few days, several groups of forces wanted to visit Wei Hong one after another. Their intentions were the same, that is, to invite Wei Hong to join their forces. Facing the visits of these forces, Wei Hong did not open the door again, and even did not say a word, just pretending that he was not on the courtyard. However, those forces who came to visit seemed to know very well that Wei Hong was in the courtyard, so they tried all kinds of means to make Wei Hong show up. Some of them tried their best to win him over and gave him all kinds of huge benefits, while others failed to win him over and used all kinds of coercion and inducement, and even threatened him. In short, they all wanted to impress Wei Hong. But Wei Hong ignored these people, did not see them at all, and was not moved at all, so that those forces finally left helplessly. After suppressing these troubles, Wei Hong began to prepare for the formation. Jia Heng and Chen Yan successively brought him materials for refining the flags of the four symbols formation, and there were more than one. So he took out one night to refine a total of 7 sets of flags of the four symbols formation. Then he began to notify Jia Heng and others, and in the following 2 days, when it was not noticeable during the day, he helped Chen Yan and Jia Heng to set up the four symbols formation, which was also considered to have fulfilled his promise. Jia Heng and others were naturally overjoyed, and their sense of security increased a lot. They immediately paid the spiritual stones promised to Wei Hong, and then followed Wei Hong's example and stayed in their own courtyard and tried not to go out. After doing these things, Wei Hong was temporarily relieved. Then he began to practice various spells and familiarize himself with the formation, and he really didn't dare to neglect it at all. While practicing various spells, Wei Hong was also paying attention to various situations in the market. After 2 more days, the situation in the market became even more chaotic. It was night. Night had just fallen, but the atmosphere in the market suddenly changed. Originally, the market was extremely noisy during the day, with people killing people and robbing treasures almost every moment, or fighting for power. In short, it was extremely chaotic, but at night, all these scenes disappeared. Not many people dared to go out at night, and almost all of them retreated to their homes. Because, at night, the weirdness appeared. Now the weird fog has gradually spread to the outside of the market, and it seems that it will not take long to completely cover the entire market. In this way, the invisible weirdness hidden in the weird fog is naturally omnipresent, and it directly targets the monks in the Qingyuan Mountain market, treating the 10,000 or 20,000 monks as prey. So starting from 3 days ago, the weirdness appeared at night, and the weird incidents have been 10 times more than before. Even if they retreated in their homes, many monks were killed. At this time, a shrill scream suddenly sounded not far away. That scream resounded throughout the entire market, terrifying countless people. However, this was not the end, but the beginning. Afterwards, all kinds of extremely miserable wails and screams could be heard. It was as if strange events had broken out everywhere in the entire market, and it was completely impossible to prevent them. As long as there was no formation to block it, or there was no means to deal with the strangeness, all the monks who were targeted by the strangeness would be killed by the strangeness. Wei Hong stood in the yard, quietly listening to the various shrill screams and wails outside. Time is running out, the strange fog may soon completely cover the market. Feeling the chaotic scene outside, Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh slightly. From the increase in strangeness, it can be known that the strange fog is imminent, and it will not take a few days to completely cover the entire market, and then they will be even more unable to enter. It is still a matter of whether they can survive the invasion of strangeness. Perhaps it won't be long before the 10,000 or 20,000 monks in this market will die. Wei Hong also felt very urgent about this. He had to practice all the new spells as soon as possible until he could cast them skillfully, and he also needed to be familiar with and quickly set up the heavenly wind cold array. Only in this way could he feel at ease. Because of the protection of several layers of arrays, no weirdo dared to approach Wei Hong's courtyard at this time. But as time goes by, those weirdos will not be patient anymore. Fortunately, I am not without preparation. It will take a few days to max out all the new spells to the limit, and the array will be almost skillfully set up. Calculating his practice progress in the past few days, Wei Hong couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In any case, This courtyard with the protection of the array should be safe for now. Even if time is a bit tight, it still does not affect Wei Hong's arrangements and plans. Chapter 508 Chaos, Madness. The next day today was the 8th day since the entire market was abandoned by the Qingyuan sect. Wei Hong decided to go out and see what was going on outside. No matter what others said, it was not as practical as going out to see it himself. Wei Hong decided to take the risk to go out in order to have a clear judgment of the current situation. He first put on the first-grade superior robe he bought on the black market, and then covered it with a black robe with a hood as a cover. The 4-elephant panlong belt was tied around his waist, and the first-grade superior green Wong sword was carried on his back. Then he used the disguise technique to turn himself into a middle-aged man with an ordinary figure and appearance. He gently put the hood on his head and became mysterious. His true identity could not be seen by those below the foundation building stage. He sorted out the storage bag again, making sure that all kinds of talismans and array-setting tools were placed in the most accessible place. Then he quietly opened a gap in the protective array, and then slipped out with a whoosh. After stepping out of the courtyard, Wei Hong immediately hid his figure, and his aura was completely restrained. Without naked eye observation, Wei Hong's presence could not be detected at all. At this time, the sky was bright, and many monks began to appear in the market. Wei Hong walked quietly in the market, and basically kept himself in the shadows, and avoided the eyes of the monks around him as much as possible, just like an assassin walking at night in the dark, making it very difficult to detect. Moreover, Wei Hong did not leave the courtyard far away, but found a hidden corner and stopped, and then began to carefully observe the streets not far away, while also trying to reduce the chance of being discovered. At this moment, Wei Hong saw that none of the monks who appeared in the market were traveling alone. All of them were in groups, at least 3 people, and they obviously knew the fate of being alone. Moreover, those monks who traveled in groups began to scan everything around them after they appeared, as if they were looking for a suitable target to rob, and also began to send people to search from one shop to another. Almost all shops have been smashed, looted and burned, so that anyone can enter the shop and search at will. But whether you can find supplies depends on your luck. In fact, during this period of time, large and small forces have continued to emerge, and these forces have been constantly searching for various supplies in the market. As a result, the supplies on the surface have almost been plundered, and it is difficult to find a grain of spiritual rice. For this reason, the major forces can only fight each other to obtain some supplies. It is precisely because of this that various fights have become a daily routine in the market. Boom! Just when Wei Hong didn't pay attention, a loud rumble resounded throughout the market. Wei Hong hurriedly looked over and saw that a shop was directly shattered by a huge fireball. A gray figure flew out with a sound, spitting blood in the air. The next moment, a roar rang out, "Kill, brothers, kill all those bastards on the opposite side." A black figure flashed out with a sword light and rushed towards dozens of monks on the other side of the street. This person's momentum was extremely amazing, and he was not afraid of being besieged at all. Wei Hong was shocked, and then he realized that the person was actually a cultivator at the 8th level of key training. And behind that person, there were 50 or 60 cultivators wearing various clothes. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of various talismans were shot out without hesitation, and the target was the dozens of people on the opposite side. At the same time, after throwing out the talismans, the cultivators made hand gestures and began to cast various spells, constantly bombarding the opposite side. Dozens of cultivators coming from the other end of the street also made similar moves, either throwing out talismans or casting spells, or casting magic weapons and flying swords, etc., and the moves were surprisingly consistent. In fact, if you think about it carefully, they are all cultivators in the key training realm, and the means of killing the enemy are generally only magic weapons, talismans and spells, so it is not surprising that the means of both sides are consistent when fighting. Wei Hong looked stunned, and he didn't expect to see such a big scene as soon as he came out. Tisk, 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 dozens or even hundreds of monks are fighting each other on the street, just like a gang war in the mortal world. It's really eye-opening. Wei Hong sighed in indescribable emotion as he watched the crazy fight between the two gangs. Because such a scene was quite familiar to him, he didn't expect that monks could also fight like mortal gangs. At the moment when Wei Hong was distracted and sighing, the black monk who was in the 8th level of key training took the lead, and the sharp sword light flashed across the street, killing 3 hostile monks in one encounter. A shrill scream suddenly broke out. The black monk was immediately besieged by more than a dozen people, and various spells and flying swords were thrown at him. However, the black monk was not really a reckless man. He succeeded in one blow, which greatly boosted the morale of many monks behind him. At the same time, the whole person immediately turned around and retreated, and a layer of hard shield appeared on his body while he kept waving the sword light. Bang bang bang. After enduring several attacks, he returned to the crowd of monks just as the shield on the black monk was broken. At this time, the talismans and spells cast by both sides bombarded one after another. Boom. Puff. Fireball talisman, earth thorn talisman, thorn talisman, water arrow talisman, wood thorn technique, golden sword technique, rockfall technique, water dragon technique. All kinds of talismans and spells were used one after another, trying to completely kill the other side. Such a spectacular and huge fight scene made Wei Hong's eyelids jump wildly. In just one encounter, under the bombardment of talismans and spells, 20 to 30 people from both forces were killed or injured in an instant, and the rest took the opportunity to continue fighting, and did not retreat at all. At this time, at the other end of the street, two unknown forces actually started fighting without any signs, making the whole market directly chaotic. Such a chaotic and bloody scene, many monks who were watching on the sidelines were already accustomed to it, but Wei Hong secretly took a breath of cold air, obviously a little shocked. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have known how serious the fighting in the market was. The casualties caused by the fighting between forces were increasing, and the number of casualties remained high every day. It was so serious that everyone was in danger. However, the leaders of the forces didn't care, and they only wanted to plunder supplies or rob others, so that the fighting couldn't be stopped at all, which made the situation in the market more and more weird and unpredictable. After just watching for a while, Wei Hong returned to the courtyard with a solemn expression. This time out, he thoroughly saw what madness was, and also gave him a clear understanding of the current situation in the market, so that he felt more urgent in his heart. Chapter 509 In vain. Back in the courtyard, Wei Hong's face was solemn, and he felt more and more urgent. The chaos and madness in the market were beyond his expectations and imagination, which made him feel very uneasy. No, if the trend continues, maybe more than half of the cultivators in the market will be killed or injured before the strange fog really covers us. Wei Hong walked around in the courtyard with a thoughtful look on his face, muttering to himself, maybe those forces outside will soon target those of us who live in independent courtyards. Last time, Hong Meng from the White Tiger Society was not a broad-minded person. We should make plans early. With such urgent thoughts, Wei Hong worked harder to practice spells and familiarize himself with the formation. However, he found that he had obviously underestimated the madness of those cultivators outside, and even underestimated the attraction of his courtyard protected by the formation to those casual cultivators. So when the expected changes happened, Wei Hong was a little caught off guard. On the afternoon of the day when he returned to the courtyard, Wei Hong was practicing his magic. Several strange monks came in without warning. They were obviously murderous and covered in blood. Huh? Are there really people who are not afraid of death? Wei Hong was surprised when he saw the vicious monks who broke into the formation. He thought that such a thing would happen in a few days, but he would encounter it today. Is Taoist Guan Yu here? Just when Wei Hong was distracted, the leader who broke into the formation immediately shouted loudly. Although this person had already broken into the formation, he looked calm and unhurried. He seemed not to be worried about being attacked by the formation at all. He seemed to be extremely confident. Late stage of key training. Wei Hong muttered as he looked at the cultivation level displayed by the man. This man was a late key training 7th level cultivator, and he was accompanied by 4 5th level brothers. No wonder he was so calm. He probably thought that even if Wei Hong had the formation to help him, he would not be able to do anything to him. Wei Hong was too lazy to respond to this man. These people came with a fierce momentum and full of murderous intent. Obviously, they were not good visitors, but bad guests. Moreover, these people broke into the formation without any notice, so it was self-evident what they were thinking. Sure enough, after not getting a response from Wei Hong, the late key training cultivator's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and he immediately said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoist Guan Yu, I am Sen Wen, and I have no other choice but to borrow your courtyard to settle down. I hope you can do me a favor and remove the formation first so that we can go in." Settling down? Remove the formation? Hey, you want me to let Guan in? Do you really think I'm easy to fool? Wei Hong smiled coldly, his voice full of sarcasm. HMPH. If that's the case, don't blame us for being ruthless. Sen Winnian's face immediately darkened, and he snorted coldly and didn't want to say anything more. They looked at each other, and the fierce light in their eyes immediately became stronger. Wei Hong saw all the expressions of these people, but there was a flash of disdain and ridicule in his eyes. He saw him pinch his hands and use his spiritual power. Before Sen Winnian and his friends could take the lead, the environment around them changed instantly. Originally, after they broke into the formation, they were surrounded by a white mist, and there was also a layer of water mist around them. But when Wei Hong changed the spell, a layer of yellow light curtain immediately appeared around Sen Winnian and the other five, and the ground under their feet turned into an extremely hard yellow hard stone, and faintly revealed a pattern of 9 palaces. Under Wei Hong's control, Sen Winnian and his 5 people had moved from the water mist formation to the 9 palaces falling stone formation. Seeing the surrounding environment change instantly, Sen Winnian and his friends who were about to take action also changed their faces. Not good, act quickly. The first to react was Sen Winnian, who was in the late stage of key training. He sensed that the formation around him had changed greatly, and this formation also brought him an extremely strong crisis, so he dared not underestimate it anymore. Swish! Sen Winnian threw out 3 talismans, and the 3 talismans turned into 3 thunders and struck the surrounding yellow light curtain fiercely. These 3 talismans were actually wood thunder talismans. Obviously, he had seen that the formation around him had become an earth attribute formation, so he immediately made a countermeasure, which was to use wood to overcome earth. After throwing out the 3 wood thunder talismans, Sen Winnian did not stop. He immediately pinched his hands, and then shouted loudly. A flying sword flew out and slashed fiercely at the yellow light curtain. The other 4 cultivators in the 5th stage of key training were even more nervous when they saw this, and they pinched their hands to cast spells. The 3 wood thunder talismans were the first to show their power, turning into 3 thunders that continuously bombarded the yellow light curtain. But the result made Sen Winnian's face change greatly, because the 3 thunders did not directly break the light curtain as he expected, but only caused a slight ripple in the yellow light curtain, without any sign of breaking. And the flying sword he was driving was like hitting a steel wall, and was directly bounced back. The attacks of the other 4 monks could not shake the yellow light curtain at all, making Sen Winnian and the other 5 look at each other in bewilderment. For a moment, they could not believe what they saw. They did not expect that this formation would be so terrifying. The next moment, a huge and terrifying spiritual power fluctuation appeared above their heads. Sen Winnian looked up with horror, and saw that dozens or hundreds of black stones the size of millstones condensed in the sky above his head. Fall! A cold and ruthless voice resounded throughout the formation. As the voice sounded, the black stones in the air fell down like meteorites. Get out of the way! Sen Winnian roared with a pale face. At this moment, he felt an extremely strong murderous intent and the smell of death. At the same time, he was deeply regretful. He wanted to seize this small courtyard without knowing whether to live or die, but he didn't expect to kick directly into the iron plate that would break at the touch. No. With deep regret, Sen Winnian roared again. He was still unwilling to die, and immediately threw out all the talismans he was carrying. At the same time, he also attached several defensive talismans to himself. Even his beloved flying sword was swung into a light curtain under his control, protecting it tightly. The other 5 monks were already frightened and their eyes were full of despair. They had never experienced the power of such a terrible formation. Now they were facing the threat of death, which almost made them collapse. At this moment of death, several people also used their own bottom line means to try to block the bombardment of black stones, and even ran around in a panic, trying to dodge. Unfortunately, all these actions were in vain. Chapter 510, Overestimating Your Own Abilities. Black boulders fell down. Boom! Like a meteorite falling from the sky, the terrifying and huge momentum shook the entire formation. However, under the barrier of the formation, the outside world was not affected at all. Only Wei Hong could see the scene inside the formation clearly. Under the bombardment of dozens or hundreds of black boulders, the first thing to break was the shields on the 4 5th level key training monks. After only resisting the bombardment of 2 or 3 black boulders, the shields formed by the diamond talismans on their bodies were completely broken, and then the 4 5th level key training monks could no longer avoid the bombardment of the boulders. The black boulders fell directly on their bodies. Ah! Help! The four people only had time to let out half a scream, and then they were smashed into meat patties. Sen Winnigan didn't care about the lives of the four people at this time. When the black boulders bombarded, the yellow hard stone ground under his feet suddenly turned into a swamp and softened, and instantly made Sen Winnigan's feet sink deeply into it and unable to extricate themselves. As a result, Sen Winnigan, who originally wanted to avoid the boulders, could not help but change his face suddenly, and his eyes were filled with strong emotions such as despair, regret, indignation and unwillingness, but unfortunately he could not turn back. Puff. The next moment, the shield on Sen Winnigan's body was completely broken. Sen Winnigan, who had expected it, acted very wooden, but waved the flying sword in his hand more frantically. Crack! The flying sword could not block for a few breaths and was directly smashed into 2 pieces. Puff. Sen Winnigan did not make any screams, and followed the footsteps of the 4 cultivators and was smashed into a meat pie. The power of the 9 palaces falling stone formation is so strong that even the 7th level of key training cannot withstand it. Humph, you don't know how to live or die. Looking at Sen Winnigan and others who were killed by the boulders in the formation, Wei Hong just sneered indifferently. He would not have the slightest sympathy for those who wanted to take advantage of the chaos to attack him. If they didn't die, then Wei Hong himself might have died. You don't know your own limits, you deserve to die. Whispering softly, Wei Hong stepped into the formation. He first walked to Sen Winnigan's body, took off his storage bag and put it away, then searched the bodies of the other people, and put the things he found into the storage bag without even looking at them. Then, he took out the 10,000 souls banner with a solemn expression. Since you guys came to my door, don't blame me for letting your souls fly away. Wei Hong smiled coldly. There was no reason not to accept such a soul that came to my door. Moreover, once the souls of Sen Winnigan and others were absorbed by the 10,000 souls banner, they would completely lose the opportunity to reincarnate. Master. At Wei Hong's call, 9 ghost children immediately appeared in front of him. The 9 ghost children happily circled around him, obviously in a good mood. After Wei Hong had played with them for a while, he ordered, "Ghost children, control the 10,000 souls banner to collect the souls of these people." "Okay, Master." The 9 ghost children immediately responded docilely, and then they got into the 10,000 souls banner with a whoosh. The next moment, the 10,000 souls banner flew up out of thin air and floated directly above the bodies of Sen Winnigan and the other 4. Then an invisible wave rippled through, and the size of the 10,000 souls banner suddenly increased by 2 or 3 times, becoming more than 3 feet high, and then the entire banner began to sway slightly. As the 10,000 souls banner swayed slightly, a suction force targeting the souls suddenly appeared. The 5 bodies that had just died did not move, but a slightly transparent soul slowly emerged from their bodies. These 5 transparent souls still looked like they were in life, but they all looked terrified and began to struggle frantically. However, under the terrifying section of the 10,000 souls banner, the 5 souls could only be slowly sucked out of the corpse, and then flew towards the 10,000 souls banner in the air without any resistance. The 5 souls in the air seemed to know what would happen after being sucked into the 10,000 souls banner, so they screamed in fear and struggled frantically, and even their souls began to shake violently. However, such an action was completely futile. The next moment, the suction power emitted by the 10,000 souls banner suddenly increased sharply, and the 5 souls were completely sucked into the 10,000 souls banner with a whoosh. The 10,000 souls banner also stopped shaking at this time. Then, the 10,000 souls banner, which absorbed the 5 souls, suddenly increased in size again, and directly turned into a blood-red flag more than 10 feet high, and the flag surface was automatically fluttering without wind. The flag surface, which was originally engraved with several ghost face patterns, once again appeared several ghost face patterns out of thin air, and the flag surface swayed and fluttered, looking extremely hideous and terrifying. And after absorbing the 5 souls, the momentum of this 10,000 souls banner was directly improved a lot. The 9 ghost children did not immediately get out of the 10,000 souls banner, but instead controlled the 10,000 souls banner to shake slightly in the air. Swish! 5 transparent souls appeared around the 10,000 souls banner, but compared to before, the eyes of these 5 souls were dull at this time, and their consciousness had been completely wiped out. It was obvious that they had been completely controlled by the 10,000 souls banner. Moreover, the aura emitted by these 5 souls was only slightly weaker than when they were alive. In addition to the 4 divine souls absorbed from the black market before, The aura of the 10,000 souls banner had already increased by more than 2 times. The momentum alone was enough to make the cultivators in the late stage of key training change color. Good, haha, it is worthy of being a treasure that can grow by absorbing divine souls. I really have to thank these people for delivering it to my door, haha. Feeling the improvement and growth of the aura of the 10,000 souls banner, Wei Hong couldn't help but laugh with joy. Especially the 9 divine souls, he only needs to continue to nourish the 10,000 souls banner every day and feed those divine souls with blood, and those divine souls will become more and more powerful, even far beyond their strength in life. In this way, Wei Hong can add another big trump card. Not bad, ghost children, well done. With you controlling this 10,000 souls banner, it will be enough to trap at least 2 late-stage key training cultivators in the future, and it may even kill them. Wei Hong, who is in a good mood, praised the 9 ghost children at this time. After hearing Wei Hong's praise, the 9 ghost children came out of the 10,000 souls banner with a whoosh. Thank you, Master, next time, please let us try the power of this 10,000 souls banner. The ghost children happily surrounded them and made a request. Wei Hong would naturally not refuse. He nodded and said, okay, I'll let you come out and try it next time I have a chance. Speaking of which, he was also a little curious about the power of this 10,000 souls banner. But now is not the time to try it. He played with the 9 ghost children for a while and then put them away together with the 10,000 souls banner. As for the 5 corpses that had lost their souls, Wei Hong directly burned them to ashes with a fireball technique. Chapter 511, No Time to Lose. As time went by, the situation in the market became more and more chaotic, and the situation became worse and worse. Wei Hong had never stepped out of the courtyard since he went out a few days ago. During this period of time, 2 waves of people who wanted to attack this courtyard came one after another, but these 2 small forces followed the footsteps of Sen Winhun and others, and were directly killed by Wei Hong using the power of the formation. From then on, no one dared to think about Wei Hong's courtyard. Wei Hong was secretly relieved. If he did not kill these 3 waves of people who dared to attack his courtyard with thunderous means, he might attract more covetous eyes. After all, in this chaotic situation, good people will definitely be bullied. Once a fierce attitude and strong strength are revealed, most of the covetous eyes can be eliminated, so that others will never dare to provoke easily, just like Wei Hong now. Wei Hong temporarily put aside the increasingly chaotic situation outside. First, as long as he did not go out, there would be no danger for the time being. Even the weirdness could not quietly penetrate the formation to attack him. Second, he still had many important things to do and had no time to care about the bad situation outside. The life and death of those forces and casual cultivators outside had nothing to do with him. Although he no longer cared about the situation outside and never stepped out of the courtyard, he occasionally communicated with Chen Yan and others through the sound transmission node, and still learned some key information. It is said that not only the market is getting worse and worse, but even the Qingyuan sect is also full of weirdness at this time, and the weirdness that appeared in the Qingyuan sect is much stronger than the weirdness in the market. Many outer disciples of the Qingyuan sect have been poisoned, and the number of casualties has skyrocketed. Even though the Qingyuan sect is protected by a shield formation, there is still a problem. No one thought that those weirdnesses were so terrible that they could quietly infiltrate the Qingyuan sect's protective formation. Without any warning, hundreds of outer disciples of Qingyuan sect were killed in the first few days, and even more than a dozen inner disciples in the foundation building stage were killed. It was really shocking. If it weren't for the giant and strong men of Qingyuan sect who came forward to suppress it and used the Xiang Bell and other sect-guarding magic weapons to cleanse the sect again and again, the Qingyuan sect might have been a river of blood, and there would probably not be many survivors left. Even now, everyone in Qingyuan sect is in danger. The surviving disciples of Qingyuan sect are afraid of the elusive and terrifying weirdness. When Wei Hong heard the news, he was shocked for a long time. Even a big sect like Qingyuan sect is in such a predicament. This strange fog will definitely not dissipate easily. Through the situation of Qingyuan sect, Wei Hong had a deeper judgment on the danger of the strange fog. Even some foundation building masters in Qingyuan sect were not spared and still suffered from the strangeness. If a small shrimp like him in the key training realm really encountered such a powerful strangeness, wouldn't he have no chance to escape? Thinking of this, Wei Hong's sense of crisis suddenly surged. He couldn't help but think in his heart, Even the King insect's protective formation can't stop the infiltration of the strangeness. How much effect can my mere first level formation have? If that time really comes, maybe most of the 10,000 or 20,000 cultivators in this market will die. No, I have to think of some countermeasures. I can't just wait to die. Thinking of the huge crisis that might be caused when the strangeness completely enveloped him, Wei Hong couldn't sit still. During this period of time, as half a month passed, his newly acquired 5 first-level superior spells were all as he wished, directly using vitality points to increase to the great perfection realm, and he was able to perform them very skillfully. If the time was not too short and the vitality points were not enough, he could even max out all 5 spells to the limit. At that time, his 5 spells would be able to be cast instantly like other spells, and his combat power would be doubled. Even now, after being able to skillfully cast 5 first-grade top-grade spells, his strength has also improved significantly. In addition, he has nurtured the Green Wong Sword, the 4 Elephants Panlong Belt, and the first-grade top-grade robe, and practiced for almost half a month. He has been able to master these instruments and fully exert their power. In this way, Wei Hong's strength has increased by at least twice compared to before. However, this improvement in strength did not bring Wei Hong a sense of security, but made him feel more and more uneasy. Because in the past half-month, there would be weird things trying to approach and break into the formation every night, but they were all completely killed by the evil killing talismans posted on the wall, so he had to consume a lot of evil killing talismans every night, and as time went on, the weird things approaching the courtyard became more and more. In addition, although he had forcefully killed 3 waves of cultivators who coveted his courtyard, making many cultivators dare not take risks easily, he did not completely eliminate the malice of all the people. From time to time, there were still people outside the courtyard spying outside the formation. In this way, how could Wei Hong feel at ease? I can't kill them all, damn it. Wei Hong was secretly angry when he thought of people spying outside the formation from time to time. But he couldn't do anything to those people for the time being. He didn't want to leave the courtyard, and those people outside didn't dare to break into the formation for the time being, so Wei Hong could only let them go. But I can't leave the market, this is always a problem. Wei Hong frowned and said to himself, the strange fog area must not be entered. Those people before are examples. With my cultivation level, I broke into the strange fog and I was really dead. I guess there would be no residue left. But if I can't break into the strange fog, how can I leave here? Thinking of this, Wei Hong had a headache. For a while, he couldn't leave this place. Entering the strange fog was absolutely unthinkable. Wei Hong would never do it. Just think about the people of King sect. If the strange fog was so easy to get out, they would have fled long ago. Why would they activate the sect protection formation and act like turtles, with all the members staying indoors? Even a giant and stage expert might not dare to directly break into the strange fog. The giant tree monster had left a very deep impression on Wei Hong. The size of the tree monster alone was enough to make people feel desperate. Who knows how many terrible and strange things like tree monsters exist in this vast and wide strange fog? If you are unlucky enough to encounter one, who can escape? No, we must find another way. This matter cannot be delayed. Wei Hong's uneasiness became more and more intense, and he urgently needed to think of a solution. Chapter 512, A Cunning Rabbit Has 3 Burrows. Wei Hong frowned deeply. The approaching strange fog made him feel more and more threatened. He wanted to find a way to leave, but he couldn't think of any solution. It's difficult. Wei Hong gritted his teeth and sighed. Even King sect has to guard the sect tightly for this, and dare not let the disciples break into the strange fog to leave. It's even more impossible for me. You can't fly with a sword unless you reach the foundation building stage. If I break into the strange fog, I can only rely on walking, which is completely suicide. There are many strange things in the strange fog. Even if I have more evil killing talismans, they are not enough to fill their teeth. No, there is no way. Wei Hong became more and more impatient, but he still couldn't think of a way to deal with the current situation. When the strange fog completely covers the market, his several layers of formations will not be able to withstand the countless strange attacks. He must think of and take countermeasures within these few days, otherwise he may not even have the last chance. What should I do? Wei Hong was so impatient that his thoughts began to diverge randomly. This doesn't work in the sky, and it doesn't work on the ground either. Do I have to go underground? Wait, underground? Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up, and it was as if a bolt of lightning split the fog in his mind. Yes, it doesn't work in the sky, and it doesn't work on the ground, so I can go underground. Wei Hong's eyes lit up, and he immediately followed this line of thought and thought, I can dig a tunnel. As long as I dig deeper, I can even dig a space underground to protect myself. Could it be that the strange fog can also erode the underground? The more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed to him, and the more excited he became. Haha, not bad, not bad, this method should be feasible. According to the observations during this period of time, the strange fog and the weirdness are all aimed at living things, either monks or monsters and spirit beasts, but it seems that they will not have any effect on dead things, such as soil, rocks, and buildings, etc., which seem to have no changes. Thinking about it this way, it seems that there is a lot of potential. Wei Hong's eyes burst into an unprecedented light, and various ideas in his mind continued to emerge. According to his idea, digging tunnels really seems to be a promising way. After all, the strangeness only devours living things and monks, and will not have any impact on dead things, let alone corrode the ground. In this way, hiding underground becomes an effective and feasible method. That's right, that's it, let's do it this way. Wei Hong kept muttering to himself, saying, it's impossible for the strange fog to cover the underground. If it doesn't work, I will dig deeper underground. If 5 meters is not enough, I will dig 10 meters. If 10 meters is not enough, I will dig 100 meters. Anyway, I am good at digging tunnels. It just takes some effort. Digging tunnels is his old specialty. He did this as early as when he was in Shenzhen. Now he is just doing his old job again. It is simply a simple thing for him. Haha, okay, I've decided, I'll dig a tunnel. Wei Hong smiled at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were extremely firm and he whispered, maybe no one can think of digging a tunnel to avoid the strange fog. The reason why Wei Hong made a quick decision was because he thought very clearly. First of all, digging a tunnel can allow him to avoid the strange fog. Secondly, the dug tunnel can also provide an escape route in space for a response when foreign enemies invade. How could he hesitate to do such a good thing that can kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Moreover, the crisis is imminent, and he has no better way. So Wei Hong did what he said, and immediately looked for a handy tool in his storage bag. However, he searched for a long time but could not find a handy tool. After thinking about it, Wei Hong simply picked up his green Wong sword, and then muttered to himself, it should be possible to control the flying sword to dig a tunnel. Moreover, the green Wong sword is a first-class flying sword, which is extremely sharp. No soil or rocks can stop its sharpness, which is just right. So, the green Wong sword became a handy tool for digging tunnels before it saw blood. Fortunately, the magic weapon has no spirit, otherwise I don't know how miserable it would be. It seems that tools alone are not enough. What should I do with this oil if I dig deeper? Thinking of this, Wei Hong immediately searched among the spoils he had collected before. After searching for a long time in the spoils, he finally found what he wanted. Got it. Wei Hong's eyes lit up, and he immediately took out a jade slip from it, and laughed happily, haha, it's just right to use it. I thought this spell would be forgotten. The jade slip in his hand recorded a spell called Mud and Sands Fossilization Technique. This Mud and Sands Fossilization Technique is just a simple spell of the first level low grade, and it has a single function. It can only condense soil, sand and other materials into stones, and has no other effects. It is precisely because of this that Wei Hong did not take a fancy to it when he got it that day, and just threw it into the storage bag casually. Unexpectedly, this spell will come in handy today. Fortunately, he found this spell, otherwise the plan to dig a tunnel might be interrupted halfway. Learn the spell first, while I still have some vitality points, enough to turn it to the great success level. Wei Hong no longer hesitated and immediately began to learn Mud and Sands Fossilization Technique. After a moment, the system sent a prompt, Ling. The first level low-grade spell Mud and Sand Fossil Art was successfully recorded, and the current realm is entry level, 1/100. After the successful recording, Wei Hong immediately added vitality points. Ling. The first level low-grade spell Mud and Sand Fossil Art Proficiency plus 100, the current realm is Mastery, 1/300. Ling. The first level low-grade spell Mud and Sand Fossil Art Proficiency plus 300, the current realm is Minor Success, 1/500. Ling. The first level low-grade spell Mud and Sand Fossil Art Proficiency plus 500, the current realm is Great Success, 1 over 800. With 900 vitality points added, this mud and sand fossil art instantly reached the great success realm. At this moment, Wei Hong's mind immediately emerged with various experiences and techniques for performing mud and sand fossil art. In less than half an instant stick of time, he absorbed all the experiences in his mind. At this time, Wei Hong nodded secretly and said, "Okay, the great accomplishment realm is enough. With the sand and mud fossilization technique, maybe I can dig a maze underground. By the way, I have to dig it wider to fit my own formations. I can then lay out all the formations I have. This way, it will be foolproof." Thinking of this, Wei Hong was so excited that he could not restrain himself. So he struck while the iron was hot and started digging the tunnel immediately after a little preparation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 513 Tunnel, Maze. Puff. Just like cutting tofu, the flying sword in Wei Hong's hand only needs to be gently applied to penetrate deep into the soil, and with a slight stir of his force, all the soil and gravel are crushed and then put into a storage bag. Puff puff puff. Wei Hong controlled the flying sword to continuously penetrate and stir the soil, and soon dug a circular hole with a diameter of half a foot under the ground. At this time, the excavation had just begun, and the depth of this circular hole was less than 10 feet. In order to conceal the tunnel, Wei Hong chose to set the entrance of the tunnel in his bedroom, which was under the original wooden bed. Ordinary people would not be able to find it unless they searched for it. He did not intend to use the formation to cover the entrance of the tunnel, so as not to expose the location of the entrance of the tunnel due to the fluctuation of the formation. Wei Hong did not stop for a moment, and kept waving and stirring the flying sword in his hand. The scattered mud and sand were constantly collected into the storage bag, which would not affect his digging of the tunnel at all. When Wei Hong killed Yan Feng and the Blood Eagle robber cultivator, he had obtained 2 storage bags. Later, when he came out of the black market, he encountered 4 robber cultivators. In addition to the 3 waves of cultivators who broke into the formation before, he obtained a total of 9 storage bags. The spoils were extremely rich. Therefore, he specially set aside 6 or 7 storage bags as tools to store mud and sand. In this way, he would not worry about the mud and sand being unable to be placed, nor would it affect the subsequent excavation work. After digging the tunnel 3 feet deep, Wei Hong stopped temporarily. Then he put down the flying sword, and then pinched his hands, and the spiritual power in his body was also activated. After 2 breaths, he pointed at the mud walls on both sides, congeal. In an instant, the mud walls on both sides, which were originally hard and had no signs of collapse, solidified instantly. Under the urging of the mud and sand fossilization technique, they directly turned into huge black hard rocks. They looked extremely solid, and there was no need to worry about the danger of collapse. After a spell, the tunnel, which was only 10 feet deep, was completely solidified. Well, not bad, this spell can really come in handy. Looking at the rock wall that was solidified into hard rock, Wei Hong nodded with satisfaction. Then he continued to work, picked up the flying sword and dug deep without fatigue. The extremely sharp green Wong sword was wielded like cutting tofu, and it could easily cut the soil and rock without any effort. In this way, Wei Hong's efficiency in digging tunnels can be said to be extremely efficient. What's more, he still retained the physique of an innate warrior. It was just a simple digging work, so he didn't feel tired at all, but made him more and more excited. Haha, I want to dig a cave underground. As long as there are enough living supplies, maybe I can still live a comfortable life when all the monks on the ground die, haha. Excited, Wei Hong dug more and more vigorously. Obviously, at this point he was no longer satisfied with just digging a tunnel to avoid the strange fog. He thought that since no one was competing with him anyway, he might as well dig wider. So Wei Hong did what he thought, digging day and night very hard. 3 days later, when Wei Hong entered the tunnel again, it had already changed a lot. Starting from the tunnel entrance in the bedroom, walking down a stone staircase for more than 10 feet, he came to a 2-meter-high stone door. This stone door was also made of hard black rock, and the door panel was very thick. Ordinary people could not push this stone door open. Moreover, there were some mysterious patterns carved on the door panels on both sides of this stone door, which seemed a little unusual, but it didn't seem to be very noticeable. Only Wei Hong himself knew that he had set up a small 4 symbols formation around this stone door, with a stone door as the center. If there were no cultivators in the late stage of key training, it would be a bit difficult to break into this stone door. After passing through the formation and pushing open the stone door, Wei Hong came to a huge circular hall with a diameter of 20 meters. The whole hall was still built with dark hard rocks, which looked extremely rough and solid. In this huge circular hall, he also used the sand fossilization technique to solidify 2 stone tables and several stone benches, which provided him with a resting area. At the same time, many mysterious patterns were also carved on the walls around this hall, and many formation flags were buried under the surrounding walls. Wei Hong set up a killing formation in this hall, Heavenly Wind Cold Formation. Looking at the inconspicuous hall, Wei Hong sneered secretly. If someone really breaks in and thinks that they will be done after breaking through the stone door, then this Heavenly Wind Cold Formation should bring them a big surprise. This is a first-class dual attribute attack formation. Even a cultivator in the late stage of key training will lose a layer of skin when entering it. If Wei Hong was present to control the formation, then as long as the cultivators were not on the foundation building stage, there would be basically no chance of survival. This is also the reason why Wei Hong deliberately arranged this Heavenly Wind Cold Formation here. One is that the space here is large enough, and the other is that Wei Hong has an accurate psychological prediction of the cultivators who may break in here. Generally speaking, as long as the existence of the tunnel is discovered, everyone will be cautious when walking down the tunnel at the beginning, fearing that there are some mechanical formations. But when they walk down without any abnormalities and saw a stone door, almost everyone would think that this stone door was not a threat, but would relax their vigilance. In this way, the 4 symbols formation can bring the first surprise to those cultivators who broke into the tunnel. However, the 4 symbols formation is a purely defensive formation, which may not last long before it is broken. However, once those intruders broke through the 4 symbols formation and opened the stone door and found that there was nothing unusual, most people would probably breathe a sigh of relief again, thinking that they had broken through the formation that blocked their steps, and there should be no danger now. In this way, the Heavenly Wind Cold Array can bring a second surprise to those people. And it is a great surprise. I believe that no one is willing to experience how terrible the power of the killing array with dual attributes of ice and wind is. Even Wei Hong himself is not clear about the upper limit of this Heavenly Wind Cold Array. If there are really people who are not afraid of death coming in, I want to see what kind of reaction they will have. When Wei Hong thought of the bloody killing that this array might cause, he couldn't help laughing secretly. This is the place where he is currently living and making a living. He can't afford to treat it carelessly. As long as someone dares to break in or cause any damage, that is his, Wei Hong's, mortal enemy. How can he be polite to his mortal enemy? Chapter 514, There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, it would be best if we can stay undetected. With this thought in mind, Wei Hong began to scan the stone wall hall. This hall is actually just a front station, or perhaps a buffer space that he deliberately created. There are 7 or 8 slightly smaller stone doors around this stone wall hall. On these stone doors, there are some different words written. Among them are rest areas, training areas, spell practice areas, talisman drawing rooms, and alchemy rooms, etc. There are also 2 or 3 stone doors that have no text signs for the time being. If this scene is seen by the monks outside, I don't know how shocked they will be. Because Wei Hong dug out a large number of passages underground, each of which can lead to different areas, and each passage has a different direction, just like a maze. Ordinary people will definitely get lost if they come in. Who would have thought that Wei Hong actually dug out a cave house underground? Of course, this is just the prototype of the cave house, and many areas and functions have not been truly realized. For example, the alchemy room is just an empty stone room, but there is no ground fire introduced, so it is impossible to make alchemy for the time being. However, such a prototype of a cave house also took Wei Hong a lot of thought. Not bad, haha, it's not in vain for my 3 days of sleepless work. Looking at the passages leading to various areas or stone chambers, Wei Hong felt a sense of accomplishment. This is the result of his 3 days of hard digging, and it is also the place where he now lives. The other passages can be stopped for the time being. Wei Hong stroked his chin, looked at the 3 passages without any text markings, and said to himself, the 3 passages leading to the outside of the market still need to be dug. Whether they are useful or not, they still need to be dug. Wei Hong has always adhered to a principle, that is, doing it may not be useful, but not doing it will definitely be useless, so he has to make more preparations even if he spends more effort and time. The 3 tunnels without text markings are actually passages leading to the outside of the market. It's just that he needs to continue digging for a while before he can dig outside the market. It has to be said that this is definitely not a small project. Dig when you have time. Now that we have achieved our goal, we don't have to worry about safety issues for now. In this Tenzang deep underground, Wei Hong's original anxiety and urgency also dissipated a lot. Because Wei Hong found that when digging below 10 meters underground, it was difficult for the strange fog to penetrate here, and it was even more impossible to have any effect further down. In other words, this underground cave gave him hope of survival. When he thought of this, Wei Hong couldn't help laughing with joy. Haha, I guess no one would have thought that there would be a chance to survive underground. It's worth my hard thinking for many days. Ha ha ha. How could Wei Hong not be overjoyed to find such an opportunity and hope? And the probability of survival was much better than that of other cultivators on the ground. It even made him feel like there was a new hope after a dark tunnel. He had already tested it. When he was 10 meters underground, he could not sense the existence of the strange fog. Obviously, the strange fog could not penetrate 10 meters underground. As long as the formation outside is not broken, no one will find the tunnel I dug. Even if a powerful monster breaks into the formation, I can enter the tunnel in advance to avoid the monster's pursuit. In this way, it will be foolproof. Wei Hong thought carefully about various problems and possible accidents while being happy, and imagined various response plans in advance. Even if someone or even a monster really broke into the tunnel, he was not afraid. He arranged layers of formations here. As long as it is not a foundation-building cultivator, anyone who comes will die. Wei Hong's eyes flashed a fierce light, and he was also very confident. Outside this stone wall hall, that is, in the rest area, training area, spell practice area and talisman drawing room, he did not miss any of them, and arranged all the formations he could lay one by one. One after another, leaving no way for the cultivators who broke in here to survive. While thinking, Wei Hong pushed open the stone door of the training area and walked in. After passing through the stone gate, what came into view was another dark hard stone passage that was more than 1 person tall and half a meter wide. There was an oil lamp inlaid every 10 meters on both sides of the stone wall, making the area dozens of meters underground not seem dim. I don't know how long the strange fog will last before it dissipates. Maybe this place will become my permanent residence. Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart, when the market is completely shrouded by the strange fog, I will definitely not be able to stay on the ground. Then I will really live under this underground palace. In this case, then all kinds of preparations must be started, and all kinds of living supplies, water sources, etc. must be prepared. If you want to survive in this underground palace for a long time, all kinds of living supplies are indispensable. Without spiritual rice and monster meat, even Wei Hong can't hold on for long. By the way, don't forget the toilet. If you want to live here for a long time, you can't make it dirty and smelly. Wei Hong's mind popped up an idea from time to time, and he would quickly remember and implement the useful ones. As for the water source, if it doesn't work, I will continue to dig deeper until I find an underground river. In this way, I won't be afraid of running out of drinking water. The 3 passages leading to the outside of the market should continue to be dug deeper, as far as possible. Oh, and there are more ventilation holes to dig, but they must be set in hidden locations and cannot lead the strange fog down. Since we are going to live here for a long time, we should make more furniture such as beds, tables and chairs, and prepare some beddings. After making plans for long-term survival, Wei Hong began to consider all aspects of things. He did not expect to build this underground palace luxuriously or to live comfortably here, but only asked for various living supplies to meet his daily needs, and he would be very satisfied. Now I can take a break, and I can't fall behind in my cultivation. After walking through the long dark hard stone passage, Wei Hong came to a stone room also made of dark hard stone. This is where he practices daily, but the layout is very simple. There is nothing here, only a cushion in the middle of the stone room. We need to prepare more things. Looking at this empty practice room, Wei Hong couldn't help but smile bitterly and shook his head. But when he thought that his safety was guaranteed, he felt that life was full of hope. Chapter 515, Mud and sand fossilization technique. Sitting cross-legged on the golden futon. This golden futon was obtained in the cave under Candao Lake. It is appropriate to use it now. Moreover, Wei Hong discovered that this golden futon can increase the speed of cultivation. Although the effect is a little weak, it is better than nothing. Moreover, practicing on the futon for many years will also play a significant role. Therefore, Wei Hong now basically sits on the futon to practice. After sitting cross-legged, Wei Hong wanted to practice for a while, but suddenly thought of the problem of supplies, and couldn't help but feel distressed. Other supplies are easy to say, but the spiritual rice and monster meat can't last for a few days. We must find a way to solve this problem. Wei Hong was a little troubled. This has become the most urgent problem to be solved. The half-month deadline is coming soon. The spiritual rice and monster meat he stored are almost exhausted. If he doesn't find a way to find spiritual rice and monster meat, he can't hold on for long. Wei Hong is still at the key training stage, far from reaching the stage of building a foundation and fasting. Therefore, if he cannot guarantee the daily spiritual rice and monster meat, he may starve to death in a short time. Of course, other foods can temporarily fill his stomach, but they cannot provide the spiritual energy required by cultivators, nor can they completely replace spiritual rice and monster meat. No matter what, Wei Hong must find a way to find enough spiritual rice and monster meat for his consumption. Where can I find it? Go out and rob it directly? No, the big and small forces outside probably have already guarded these daily necessities as treasures, and it is not realistic to rob them by force. Wei Hong's mind turned rapidly, and he began to think of various ways. If I can't rob them by force, can I find someone to buy some? But who should I find to buy them? Now everyone knows the importance of materials. Even if someone buys them, it is estimated that they will be sold at a sky-high price. I can't rob them, and I can't buy them. Do I have to hunt monsters myself? Hunt them myself? When Wei Hong thought of this, his eyes lit up. He hurriedly followed this line of thought and thought, yes, maybe I can go out and hunt monsters by myself. Just dig the 3 tunnels leading to the outside of the market deeper, and you can reach the forest outside the market. Then can I go to the forest to hunt monsters? No, it's still not possible. The outside is shrouded in strange fog. Thinking of the strange fog, Wei Hong's originally excited mind was instantly poured with a basin of cold water. He couldn't help but shook his head and said, it's not feasible to break into the strange fog to hunt monsters. What's more, the monsters in the forest should all be swallowed up by the strange fog. I can't find the target if I want to hunt them. This method doesn't work. The method of hunting monsters by myself was rejected again. Moreover, even if the monsters in the forest were not swallowed to extinction by the strange fog, they should mutate into terrifying demons. This is not something Wei Hong can provoke at all. This method is obviously unreliable. After thinking about it, Wei Hong only thought of a suitable method. It seems that there is only one way left, that is to go out and look for supplies. Wei Hong felt a little helpless, but this was indeed the only way. Leave the courtyard and go outside to look for or buy supplies, or find a way to exchange supplies. Even if the price is extremely expensive, he can only accept it with a pinch of his nose. For now, even if there are a lot of spiritual stones, if there is no spiritual rice and monster meat, there is life to live but no life to spend. After careful consideration, Wei Hong made up his mind, in this case, let's try to go out and look for it. Since there is no more suitable way, Wei Hong will not hesitate any longer. So he made preparations decisively and got up and walked towards the hall. This time when he went out, the formations in the underground palace must be fully opened. In addition, Wei Hong could not leave in the direction of the gate of the courtyard, but was prepared to go to the ground through the tunnel and then appear secretly in the market. First of all, he first disguised himself as a tall and thin monk with slender and sinister cheeks and a cold and fierce look in his eyes. When people saw him, they would feel that this person was not to be messed with. Secondly, Wei Hong not only brought all the magic tools and various talismans, but also brought the array plates and flags of the 3 arrays, Heavenly Wind Cold Array, 4 Symbols Array and 9 Palaces Falling Stone Array, to ensure that he could deal with any situation. After being fully prepared, Wei Hong walked into a tunnel without any text markings. This direction should be the direction of the main gate of the market, and the distance is calculated. This tunnel has almost been dug under the market gate. While walking in the tunnel, Wei Hong secretly estimated the distance. There should be no cultivators near the market gate now. I just need to find a suitable exit to hide the tunnel entrance without being discovered. After walking in the tunnel for about half an incense stick of time, Wei Hong came to the end of the tunnel. After arriving here, he first identified the direction and estimated the distance, and then took out a green sword and continued to dig to the left. This place is at least 10 feet away from the ground, and he needs to dig a tunnel exit that is diagonally upward. Fortunately, the green sword was extremely sharp, and it would not make much noise or vibration when digging the tunnel, unlike the miners digging for ore, so Wei Hong was not worried about attracting the attention of the monks on the ground. Soon, he dug out a passage that was more than 20 feet long and tilted upward. About another foot up is the ground. It looks like this should be the location of the shops next to the gate of the market. Looking at the foundation that was 1 foot deep underground, Wei Hong deduced his current location. So he began to move lightly, and the mud and sand he dug were quickly put into the storage bag, and then he slowly dug the soil above his head layer by layer. At this time, he no longer cast the mud and sand fossilization technique for fear that the magic fluctuations would attract other people's attention. After half an incense stick, the soil above Wei Hong's head was less than half a meter thick. At this point, he became more cautious. He first put his ear to the soil and listened quietly to the movement outside. After listening for a long time, he did not find any movement or sound outside. This time Wei Hong no longer hesitated, and stabbed several times with a flying sword in his hand, cutting a square hole of 1 meter in size in the soil above his head. He stretched out his hand and directly put the fallen soil into the storage bag. Then his eyes flashed fiercely. He held 3 fire dragon talismans and 3 evil killing talismans in one hand, and held the green sword in the other hand, and rushed out of the hole. As soon as he rushed out of the hole, Wei Hong's eyes scanned the surroundings like a hawk. Chapter 516. The situation is unpredictable. A figure suddenly rushed out from underground. At this moment, Wei Hong had already made plans to kill all the witnesses. When it is time to be ruthless, Wei Hong can be more ruthless than anyone else. In order to keep the secret of the tunnel, he will not hesitate to cause a huge massacre, even if facing a cultivator in the late stage of key training. Fortunately, there was no one in this abandoned shop. Wei Hong took a look around and instantly breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, there is no one near the gate of the market. Wei Hong's face flashed a trace of as expected. This is the best, he does not have to worry about the entrance of the tunnel being discovered. So Wei Hong decisively took the last square piece of soil out of the storage bag, put it back to its original position, and immediately performed a mud and sand fossil technique to completely seal the entrance of the tunnel. He also moved a larger broken wall from the ruins next to it and directly pressed the position of the tunnel entrance. After doing all this, Wei Hong clapped his hands. Very good, no one should find it now. This kind of shop that has been smashed, looted, burned and abandoned will not be visited by anyone in a short time. Besides, the entrance to the tunnel has been restored to its original state by him, so even if someone moves the broken wall, they will not find the existence of the tunnel underneath. Wei Hong walked out of the shop with confidence, and then walked towards the market with confidence. This time, not only did he not wear a hood, but he did not hide his strength. Instead, he completely revealed his own cultivation, in order to deter those who wanted to attack him. Facing a cultivator in the late stage of key training, even if he was alone, since he dared to show up alone, it meant that this person either had a huge support or had absolute confidence in his own strength, so absolutely no one dared to rashly test him. This is actually what Wei Hong wanted. What's more, Wei Hong's disguise at this time became a sinister and vicious appearance, which looked very difficult to mess with. In this way, Wei Hong walked on the empty street and soon came to the original market. As soon as he walked here, the scene in front of him stunned him. All kinds of broken limbs and arms were everywhere, and a lot of fresh or dried blood was everywhere. A strong smell of blood rushed towards him, almost making Wei Hong choke. Moreover, a large number of corpses were lying on the ground, and many traces of corpses being burned to ashes were still on the ground. Such a scene was like purgatory. Wei Hong really couldn't imagine that a prosperous and bustling market in the past would now become like hell, appearing extremely bloody and tragic. The most important thing is that the monks in the market completely turned a blind eye to this scene, or they had long been accustomed to it, or even became indifferent and numb. Seeing this scene, Wei Hong couldn't help but whispered softly, "This is the purgatory on earth. I'm afraid that there are more monks who died at the hands of their own kind than at the hands of strange people, right? Such a result seems extremely ridiculous, But it is also an extremely cruel reality. For survival, for supplies, and even for power and interests, the serious consequences of the internal struggle have long surpassed the threat of the strange fog. But strictly speaking, all this is because of the threat of the strange fog that it has become what it is today. Alice, the situation is unpredictable. Wei Hong sighed and shook his head, saying to himself, now those who dare to peer outside the residence should be people from major forces. Thinking of this, he looked up and looked forward. At this moment, there were 2 waves of monks fighting at the other end of the street. In addition, from time to time, several waves of monks passed by not far from him. Every person who passed by would stare at Wei Hong with a greedy, doubtful, hesitant and fierce look, just like looking at a prey. Just sensing Wei Hong's late key training cultivation, coupled with his courage to show up alone and his appearance that was not easy to mess with, was enough to deter most of the prying eyes. Let's go, let's find someone to ask about the situation first. Wei Hong ignored the monks who were secretly staring at him, and walked forward with an expressionless face. At the same time, the momentum he exuded became stronger and stronger, making the monks who were secretly watching him dare not move rashly. Wei Hong came to the door of the General Affairs Hall with an attitude of whoever provokes him will die. In the current Qingyuan Mountain Market, except for the 2 or 3 powerful shops and the Treasure Pavilion, the rest are the General Affairs Hall and the Talisman Workshop, which have not been affected much. The acquaintance Wei Hong wanted to find was Wang Wenel, who worked in the General Affairs Hall. The reason why he came to find Wang Wenel was, first, because this person was well informed, and second, because he was familiar with Wang Wenel. It was safer to ask him for information. Fortunately, no one dared to attack Wei Hong along the way. When Wei Hong arrived at the door of the General Affairs Hall, he found that the General Affairs Hall was also covered by a formation. Hey, a first-class 8 trigrams locking gold formation. No wonder this place is so impregnable. Looking at the formation in front of him, Wei Hong couldn't help but chuckle. He had not learned this 8 trigrams locking gold formation, but he could recognize it. At this time, Wei Hong did not rush into the formation, but took out a token and threw it far into the General Affairs Hall. Click. After the token entered the formation, it fell on the door of the General Affairs Hall, making a crisp sound. As expected, this movement immediately attracted the attention of the monks inside the General Affairs Hall. A monk picked up the token and looked at it, then looked at Wei Hong outside the door with a puzzled look on his face. He seemed to know Wei Hong's intention, so he took the token and walked into the backyard of the General Affairs Hall. Wei Hong was not in a hurry, but stood there calmly waiting. After seeing this scene, some monks who were still secretly watching around withdrew a few more people. Obviously, there was no need for them to provoke such a late key training cultivator who was related to the General Affairs Hall, so there was no need to continue to follow him. After Wei Hong waited for a while, he saw a person slowly walking out from behind the gate of the General Affairs Hall. Wei Hong was very familiar with this person. It was Wang Wenel. When Wang Wenel walked out and took a look, he saw that Wei Hong's face was very unfamiliar, but he did not show any strange color, but raised the token and gestured to Wei Hong. Wei Hong knew what he meant, so he nodded, and took out a formation plate from the storage bag for Wang Wenel to see, as a way to confirm his identity. Because the token he threw into the General Affairs Hall was the identity token of the Formation Master awarded to him by Wang Wenel himself. Chapter 517 General Affairs Hall. The formation slowly opened a gap. In fact, when Wei Hong threw in the token, he was able to prove his identity. But Wang Wenel, for the sake of caution, authenticated it once more. When he saw Wei Hong take out a formation plate, Wang Wenel in the General Affairs Hall relaxed his face. So he ordered people to control the formation and open a gap. Wei Hong did not hesitate at all and walked into the formation directly. In this way, the cultivators who were still secretly following Wei Hong withdrew one after another, which seemed to be very tacit and very straightforward. Obviously, they did not want to provoke people like Wei Hong. The moment he entered the formation, Wei Hong changed his appearance to that of Guan Yu. Seeing this, Wang Wenel's face immediately showed a look of understanding. "Friend Wang, long time no see, Guan, I am sorry to bother you." When he came to the door of the General Affairs Hall, Wei Hong smiled and bowed to Wang Wenel. Looking at Wei Hong's familiar face, Wang Wenel felt an inexplicable intimacy at this time, so he immediately stepped forward and held Wei Hong, saying, "Haha, Guan Yu, I thought you were in trouble. It's great to see that you are okay. Come on, please come in. Compared with those crazy monks outside, Wang Wenel naturally felt very kind to Guan Yu, an acquaintance, and he was also very happy to see that Wei Hong was safe and sound. Wei Hong sighed. Yes, fortunately Guan knows two formations, otherwise it may not be safe until today, but I am also very happy to see that Wang Yu is okay, haha. As one of his acquaintances, Wei Hong naturally hoped that Wang Wenel would be okay. And Wang Wenel could also feel that Wei Hong's words were absolutely sincere, so he became more cordial and enthusiastic. He took Wei Hong to a reception room in the General Affairs Hall and personally poured Wei Hong a cup of tea. The two men sat down and exchanged pleasantries for a while, and then Wang Wenel asked, "Fellow Taoist Guan, I wonder why you are here? If there's anything I can help you with, just tell me." Wang Wenel knew that Wei Hong must have something important to tell him at this time, so he took the initiative to speak without waiting for Wei Hong to ask. Wei Hong showed a trace of gratitude on his face, and said to Wang Wenel, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Wang. I came to you this time mainly to ask you two things. I hope you can give me some advice." "Hey, I don't think it's a big deal. Fellow Taoist Guan, just ask." Wang Wenel acted very generously and waved his hand to let Wei Hong not to be polite. After Wei Hong pondered for a moment, he asked directly, "I have been staying indoors for a while, and I don't know much about the current situation in this market. I hope that fellow Taoist Wang can give me some advice." "Well, it is definitely a wise move for fellow Taoist Guan to stay indoors." Wang Wenel praised him first, and then slowly said, "I know more about the current situation in the market than fellow Taoist Guan. Ever since the Qinghai sect opened the sect protection formation and the entire sect stayed indoors, our market has been completely abandoned. I believe fellow Taoist Guan should have heard about the previous chaos, not to mention now. The market has long been in chaos, and ordinary independent cultivators can't gain a foothold at all. I don't know since when, many large and small forces have emerged in the market. There are as many as dozens of these forces. After they appeared, they began to plunder or slaughter lone independent cultivators or small groups frantically. In this way, the original order was completely destroyed, and those forces and groups controlled the territory and power in the market. To this day, under the crazy plundering and slaughter of dozens of power groups, the independent people or those 2s and 3s of independent cultivators have been almost completely killed, and the rest have all joined different power groups to survive. You should have seen it when you came here, right? The market has become a hell of show, and the major power groups are fighting every day. It can be said to be extremely tragic. It's best for you not to go out if you can." Wang Wenel seemed to be happy that he had found someone to talk to. When he talked about the situation in the market, he had a sense of endless talk. However, his introduction was also very detailed, so that Wei Hong had a very intuitive understanding of the current situation in the market. However, he really didn't expect that the situation in the market would be even more tragic and bloody than he expected. The most important thing is that those independent cultivators who did not join various power groups were almost killed. This was even more unimaginable for him. It was simply cruel and vicious to the extreme. Obviously, the leaders of those powerful groups wanted to take this opportunity to complete a major reshuffle, and then make themselves the ones in power, so as to obtain all kinds of huge benefits and resources that they had never dared to think of before. After listening, Wei Hong could not help but fall into silence. And Wang Wenel was a little thirsty after talking, so he did not continue to speak but picked up the teacup and drank slowly. After a long while, after Wei Hong digested all this information, he looked up at Wang Wenel, frowned and asked, "Fellow Taoist Wang, it has been almost half a month since the Qinghai sect closed its sect. Even if dozens of forces and groups have emerged in the market town, the relations between these forces and groups should have stabilized by now, right?" "Haha, fellow Taoist Guan has a keen eye." Wang Wenel's eyes lit up. He didn't expect Wei Hong to see the situation so clearly, so he immediately replied, "Yes, after this period of crazy fighting, the relations between the major forces and groups are now a little more stable, and the fighting has decreased a lot. After all, those people are not fools. They can't fight without bottom line. What they want is territory and rights, not the extermination of all cultivators. If most of the cultivators in the market town are really dead, those forces and groups will be terrified." Wang Wenel also had a very clear view of the situation and was extremely familiar with the goals of the major forces and groups. Wei Hong nodded and said thoughtfully, No wonder, I found many people secretly following me along the way. These people must be from those powerful groups, right? Yes, Brother Guan, since you dare to show up alone in the market, no matter who sees you, they will stare at you and even rob you. But you can walk all the way here safely, and those powerful groups did not make a move. I think Brother Guan must have shocked them. At this point, Wang Wen looked at Wei Hong meaningfully. Hey, Brother Wang, don't say that. Wei Hong smiled bitterly and waved his hand, saying, I can't compare with Brother Wang. You have the protection of the General Affairs Hall, which is much better than Guan. Chapter 518, Good Intentions but Poor Power. The two smiled at each other. Wang Wen would naturally not ask about Wei Hong's situation, and Wei Hong would not make any excessive requests to Wang Wen. As for asking about some situations like now, it is not a big deal. Wei Hong put down his teacup and asked Wang Wen with a depressed look, Fellow Taoist Wang, since the major forces are now much more stable, are there any shops in the market that have reopened? Guan wants to buy some supplies. Fellow Taoist Wang should also know that without spiritual rice and monster meat, we key training cultivators can't hold on for long. Hearing this question, Wang Wen shook his head slightly and said, I am dissatisfied with fellow Taoist Guan. Now, except for 2 or 3 powerful business alliance forces such as the Treasure Pavilion, the rest of the shops have all been smashed, looted and burned by those bloodthirsty cultivators. Even if no one smashed the shops, the shopkeepers of those shops would not reopen for business at this time. Even the Treasure Pavilion can only close its doors and guard itself, how dare it open the door? As for supplies, Wang is powerless for the time being. Whether it is daily necessities or other supplies, no one is not lacking at this time. Even if Wang Wen wanted to help Wei Hong, he was powerless. Wei Hong nodded silently and said, There is no need to trouble you, Dao Wang. If there is no way, I will think of a way myself. Haha, Dao Guan, don't worry. Wang Wen suddenly laughed at this time, and then explained, Although I can't do anything, I can provide Dao Guan with another piece of news. Oh? What news? Dao Wang, please give me some advice. Wei Hong's eyes lit up and he asked hurriedly. If he could find a way to buy supplies, then the biggest problem Wei Hong is currently facing can be solved. At that time, he will be more confident of surviving in the underground palace. Therefore, he seems to be determined to get the news from Wang Wen. Even if the price is a bit expensive, Wei Hong feels that he can accept it. Wang Wen understood Wei Hong's anxiety, so he didn't keep him in suspense but said directly, It's like this. Although no store dares to open in the market, several black markets have reappeared in the market recently, led by the largest groups. There is one in the south, east and north of the city. The opening hours are generally from noon to dusk. There is everything in the black market, and there is no shortage of supplies that Guan Dao wants to buy. Everything can be exchanged. As long as Guan Dao goes to the black market, he can basically get what he wants. After Wang Wen finished speaking, he looked at Wei Hong's reaction with a smile. Sure enough, Wei Hong was overjoyed when he heard this, and hurriedly asked, What? There is a black market? Wang Dao, what is the black market? There are no conditions for entering the black market, right? Wei Hong was surprised and happy at this time. He didn't expect that he really found a way to exchange supplies. In fact, it is not surprising if you think about it carefully. Those power groups that emerged after the collapse of the old order were originally for various rights and resources. Now that the situation in the market has stabilized a little, they will naturally find ways to start seeking more benefits. Among them, opening a black market is a good way. And such a black market is naturally the trading place that Wei Hong wants to enter the most. Wang Wen smiled casually and replied, No conditions are required, everyone can enter. But Wang has to say a few more words and wants to remind Guan Dao. When he said this, Wang Wen's expression became solemn. Wei Hong also straightened his back when he heard it, and said solemnly, Please give me some advice, Guan Dao, I am very grateful. Being able to say such words means that Wang Wen regards Wei Hong as his own. Wei Hong will not refuse such good intentions, and it may save him a lot of trouble. Wang Wen waved his hand and chuckled, Oh, no need to do that. I just know more about the situation than Guan Dao. There are 2 main points. First, Ling Shi can't buy anything in the black market now. All materials must be bartered. Second, Guan Dao, please be careful when trading. Try not to make too many moves, so as not to be targeted. Although it is called a black market, it is actually a trading place controlled by major power groups. It is full of people from major power groups. This is why Wang Wenel reminded Wei Hong like this. After all, anything can happen in the market now, and the order of the past has long collapsed. Without strong strength, it is impossible to protect yourself. No one can be relied on except yourself. After listening to it, Wei Hong nodded in agreement. Thank you for your advice, Wang Daoiao. Guan Daoiao understands. It was all thanks to Wang Wenel's information that he could get such a trading channel. For this, Wei Hong was extremely grateful. The two chatted for a while, and Wei Hong said goodbye to Wang Wenel. Fellow Taoist Wang, I still need to go to the black market, so I'll take my leave first. Okay, fellow Taoist Guan, take care, I won't see you off. Wang Wenel stood up and walked out the door with Wei Hong. Haha, fellow Taoist Wang, please stay. Wei Hong smiled and stretched out his hand to stop Wang Wenel from seeing him off, and then slowly walked out of the door of the General Affairs Hall. The moment he turned around, Wei Hong changed his appearance back to his previous fierce and sinister look. After walking out of the formation, Wei Hong did not see the monks who were following him. Tisk, you're not stupid. Wei Hong sneered and didn't care. He recognized the direction and walked towards the nearest east city. Since there's a black market, he should be able to find the location of the black market without asking. Sure enough, he saw the existence of the black market in less than an instant's of time walking towards the east city. That was the original street location, but now there are all kinds of stalls on both sides of the street, and the entrance to the black market is at the entrance of the street, and there is no guard. Wei Hong's eyes flashed, and he murmured to himself, sure enough, it is called a black market, but now there is no distinction between black market and open market. Since the black market is open, the name of the black market is actually just a decoration. With this idea in mind, Wei Hong slowly stepped into the black market. Looking at the street, there are stalls on both sides, and the goods sold on the stalls are also various, and the types of goods are even richer than before the market was abandoned by King Ainman. Wei Hong was dazzled after just a few glances, and he couldn't help but feel extremely excited. Haha, this trip is indeed the right one. It's worth the huge risk I took, and the danger of the tunnel being exposed. It's really worth it. Looking at the dazzling array of goods, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel very happy. Chapter 519, Berserk. Wei Hong walked slowly into the black market. On both sides of the street, various stalls were placed in 2 rows at a distance of half a meter, which looked quite neat. However, at first glance, the style was very different from the previous stalls. Because now those who dare to set up stalls are either powerful, or extremely confident in themselves, or have joined a powerful group and are not afraid of being robbed by others. So when Wei Hong looked at it, he saw that the stall owners on each stall basically looked fierce and cold, and all of them exuded a strong aura, and they were not easy to mess with. Therefore, the atmosphere of the entire black market seemed a bit solemn. If an ordinary casual cultivator who had just entered the world of immortal cultivation came here, he would probably be scared. Wei Hong didn't take it seriously at all. After entering the black market, he looked at the supplies on each stall with relish. Huh? Is this a stall selling magic tools and spells? Wei Hong paused and immediately stopped in front of the first stall. He approached and squatted, picked up a jade slip and put it on the center of his forehead. The fierce-looking monk opposite him just glanced at it casually and didn't care. Soon, Wei Hong took the jade slip away from his forehead, and then whispered softly, "First-class top-grade violent spell." After that, he put down the jade slip and picked up another one to check again. Not long after, Wei Hong looked through all the more than 10 jade slips on the stall. However, he pondered for a while, but did not speak immediately, but looked at the other side of the stall, where 7 or 8 magic tools were placed. Among them were 2 flying swords, 2 flying knives, a dark spiritual shield and 3 robes. Each magic tool exuded a faint spiritual light. Wei Hong knew at a glance that these were all first-class magic tools. He didn't expect that in a random stall in the black market, there were 7 or 8 first-class magic tools and more than 10 first-class magic spells. This made him feel very incredible. If it were any other time, how could you see such a stall? Apart from a few big shops like the Treasure Pavilion, it was impossible for anyone outside to come up with so many good things to set up a stall. After looking at it for a while, Wei Hong did not check the magic weapons, but looked up at the stall owner and asked, "My fellow Taoist, How much do these magic weapons and spells on your stall cost? The middle-aged cultivator with a fierce look glanced at Wei Hong, then replied coldly, barter. If you have a first-grade top-grade demon-slaying talisman, 5 of them can be exchanged for a jade slip, and 10 for a magic weapon. If it is a first-grade mid-grade fiery sun talisman, 10 of them can be exchanged for a jade slip, and 20 for a magic weapon. If you have first-grade top-grade spiritual rice and monster meat, you can also exchange them. 10 caddies of spiritual rice or 10 caddies of monster meat can be exchanged for a jade slip, and 20 caddies for a magic weapon. Other talismans that can pose a threat to the weird can also be exchanged. Nothing else is accepted. After speaking, the stall owner looked at Wei Hong with hope. Wei Hong was puzzled at first, but then he was amused. He knew that the stall owner probably thought that he had a talisman for exorcism, so he hoped to trade with him. But Wei Hong pretended to be reluctant and shook his head and sighed. Alice, what a pity. I would like to exchange, but I don't have the talisman you need. After that, he was too lazy to say anything more to the stall owner. He stood up and walked to another stall without any intention of buying. Wei Hong was not stupid. He had only looked at one stall and was not clear about the situation in this black market. He was completely in the dark about the current market price and market conditions. He would not rush to buy before he figured out these problems. The most important thing was that he did not want to expose his background of having a talisman for exorcism. As long as he did not expose any details, no matter what the background of these stall owners was, they would not dare to make any move. Sure enough, watching Wei Hong get up and leave, the fierce-looking middle-aged stall owner's eyes flashed fiercely, but he just looked at Wei Hong coldly, and then turned his head again. Wei Hong had already walked to another stall and squatted down again. This was a stall selling spiritual rice and monster meat, which were exactly the daily necessities he urgently needed. Wei Hong looked expressionless at this time, and his inner thoughts could not be seen at all. This time he directly asked the price. Dao, how much are these spiritual rice and monster meat? Opposite him was an old monk with a haggard face, and his eyes were like a poisonous snake, as if he was about to explode and bite people at any time. Hearing Wei Hong's question, he immediately replied coldly, the price of first-grade medium-quality spiritual rice is the same as that of monster meat. One first-grade top-quality demon-slaying talisman can be exchanged for 10 caddies, and one first-grade medium-quality fiery sun talisman can be exchanged for 5 caddies. As for first-grade top-quality spiritual rice and monster meat, one demon-slaying talisman can be exchanged for 5 caddies, and one fiery sun talisman can be exchanged for 2 caddies. Other first-grade top-quality talismans are also fine, but it depends on what kind of talisman it is. How much do you want, fellow Taoist? Wei Hong's face seemed to be in a dilemma. He hesitated and asked, fellow Taoist, only talismans can be exchanged for spiritual rice and monster meat? I don't have the talismans you mentioned. No talismans. The old monk with a haggard face frowned, then waved his hand impatiently and said, forget it, if there are really no talismans, you can buy them with spirit stones. The first-grade medium-quality spirit rice and monster meat are 15 spirit stones per caddy, and the first-grade high-quality ones are 30 spirit stones per caddy. What? The first-grade medium-quality spirit rice costs 15 spirit stones per caddy? The first-grade high-quality ones cost 30 spirit stones per caddy. Wei Hong was still stunned after hearing the price. In comparison, this price is at least 20 times more expensive than in the past. In other words, whether it is spirit rice or monster meat, or various exorcism talismans, the current market price is at least 20 times more expensive than before, or even higher. Although Wei Hong had expected this, he did not expect the price to soar so wildly. You know, it is more than 20 times. In the past, this was something that he would never dare to think about. But now, these supplies are clearly placed in front of him, and the price is also told to him. It's up to him to buy or not. It can be said that after entering this black market, Wei Hong received the first surprise, but this surprise made him very helpless, but he had to accept it. There is no way, if he doesn't buy, someone else will. No, I still have to look more and don't act rashly. Such a thought flashed through Wei Hong's mind. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 520, Huge profits. Trade? I'd better take a look first. Wei Hong stood up and left without any embarrassment. If the price is not suitable, there is no need to force yourself to buy it, and no one stipulates that you must buy it after asking the price. The cold and withered old man stared at Wei Hong's back for a while, but finally turned his head away and stopped looking at him. Wei Hong sighed in his heart as he walked away. Crazy, it's really crazy. Such market conditions and market prices have become completely distorted. The previous situation cannot be used as a reference at all. In fact, he also knew that this price was not too outrageous in the current situation. You know, the entire market has now become an isolated island, and you can't enter or leave. No one knows when the strange fog will dissipate. And the strange fog may cover it at any time, and then everyone will face strange dangers. In this way, the talismans of exorcism are naturally the most popular and the most scarce. Their prices must have skyrocketed again and again, even to the point where there is no price in the market. The price of 20 times is not outrageous at all. As for spiritual rice and monster meat, they are biological materials that every cultivator needs to consume every day. Without spiritual rice and monster meat, any key training cultivator will starve to death within a few days. Now spiritual rice and monster meat cannot be replenished in large quantities, and it is not surprising that they are expensive. After thinking this through, Wei Hong couldn't help but smile bitterly. However, he didn't dwell on this issue too much, but continued to wander around the black market. He stopped to look at almost every stall, or asked about the price. In this way, after spending more than an hour, Wei Hong finally understood the situation in the black market and had a good idea of it. Sure enough, given the current situation, the exorcism talismans on the black market are the most expensive, at least 20 times more expensive than before, and some are as much as 30 times more expensive. Wei Hong combined the information and prices he collected, and thought secretly in his heart, the next is spiritual rice and monster meat. The price is at least slightly lower than that of exorcism talismans. It is also the most scarce hard currency on the black market and can be exchanged for almost any supplies. What Wang Wenel said about spiritual stones not being able to buy supplies on the black market is actually not accurate. If you really can't barter, you can still buy them with spiritual stones, such as spiritual rice and monster meat, but the price is much more expensive. There are also ready-made formations and formation equipment. These things have at least skyrocketed more than 10 times, and once they appear, they will be snapped up crazily. On the contrary, magic tools and spells, as well as pill recipes, formation scrolls and talismans have become less valuable, and have even depreciated a lot. Think about it, now that so many people have died, I don't know how many magic tools, spells, pill recipes, talismans, etc. have been harvested. In addition, these things cannot pose a threat to the weird, and there is no way for people to learn and improve their combat power immediately, and they can't even guarantee their survival. These things naturally become worthless. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's heart began to become hot. Whether it was magic tools or spells, or pill recipes, talismans, and array scrolls, these things were the most valuable and expensive in the past, and they would cost hundreds of spirit stones at any time. Wei Hong had been coveting many spells and talismans for a long time, but still couldn't buy them all. But now such an opportunity is in front of him. He only needs to spend a small part of the talismans to get a large number of spells, magic tools, pill recipes, talismans, and array scrolls. This temptation makes Wei Hong very tempted. As long as he collects those things and gives him enough time to digest them, his strength will surge again, and his own foundation will become extremely profound. Should I buy it? Wei Hong couldn't help but have such an idea in his mind, but after thinking about it carefully, he shook his head and thought, no, if I buy a large amount, it will definitely attract attention, and the gain will outweigh the loss. I still have to be more cautious. It is not strange to buy a small amount of supplies, but once Wei Hong buys a large amount, it will definitely attract attention, and then it will inevitably cause greater trouble. Thinking of this, Wei Hong's intention to buy a large amount of various supplies suddenly faded. But he was a little unwilling to give up this great opportunity directly. No, I still have to think of a way. Wei Hong's eyes flashed with a trace of determination. Oh, right, I can draw more evil-killing talismans. After thinking for a moment, Wei Hong's eyes suddenly lit up, and he couldn't help but secretly pat his thigh and said, I just saw several stalls selling monster skins, and the prices are not much more expensive than before. I can buy several evil-killing talismans for one. I can just buy monster skins, then take them back to make my own talisman skins, and then draw talismans myself. I can draw at least dozens of evil-killing talismans for each monster skin. This way, it's the only way to make huge profits. Then I can use those evil-killing talismans to buy supplies, and I can search for all kinds of good things. Isn't that wonderful? The more Wei Hong thought about it, the brighter his eyes became, and the more excited he was. He seemed to have discovered a new business opportunity, and it was extremely feasible. Such a business opportunity can only appear under this specific situation, and there are so many good things in the black market. Now he has the opportunity to search for them. How could he miss it? Let's do it. Wei Hong made up his mind and his eyes became firm. If I miss such a good opportunity, I don't know how many spiritual stones I will have to spend to buy so many good things in the future. I must do it this time. If I want to do it, I will do it, and I will not hesitate. So Wei Hong started to walk towards one of the stalls selling monster skins, walked to the front of the stall and asked directly, "Dao, can you sell these monster skins at a lower price?" The stall owner was a young man with ordinary appearance, but exuding a cold and gloomy aura. After hearing Wei Hong's inquiry, he shook his head and refused. 2 Fiery Sun talismans can be exchanged for a first-class monster skin, and 1 Demon Slaying talisman can be exchanged for a first-class monster skin. No bargaining. After that, the young stall owner stared at Wei Hong expressionlessly. Wei Hong's mouth twitched slightly, and his face was helpless. He seemed to think for a while, then nodded helplessly and said, "Okay, in that case, give me 10 first-grade top-grade monster skins. Here are 10 evil-killing talismans, take a look." With that, Wei Hong took out 10 evil-killing talismans and handed them to the young stall owner. However, he did not notice that when he took out the 10 evil-killing talismans, a strange light flashed in the depths of the young stall owner's eyes, but it immediately disappeared. Chapter 521. Come prepared. Here are 10 monster skins, take them, Taoist friend. The young stall owner smiled when he saw the deal was done. Wei Hong nodded, took the skins and checked them, then put them directly into his storage bag. Then he turned around and left the stall without saying anything. Looking at Wei Hong's back as he turned and left, when Wei Hong couldn't see, the young stall owner narrowed his eyes slightly, and a strange color flashed in his eyes. Wei Hong didn't notice it, but left the black market directly. After leaving the black market, he found a secret place where no one was, and then changed his appearance again, and walked into the black market again. Obviously, Wei Hong was planning to make purchases in various identities and appearances. This time he came to another stall selling spiritual rice and monster meat and asked directly, "Fellow Taoist, how much are the first-grade mid-quality and top-quality spiritual rice and monster meat?" 1 Demon Slaying talisman can be exchanged for 10 kilograms of first-grade mid-quality spiritual rice and monster meat, and 5 kilograms of top-quality ones. 1 Scorching Sun talisman can be exchanged for 5 kilograms of first-grade mid-quality spiritual rice and monster meat, and 2 kilograms of top-quality ones. Other first-grade top-quality talismans are also acceptable, but you have to show me what they are first. I only accept talismans here, not spirit stones. The stall owner replied without even raising his head, appearing very skilled. Wei Hong pretended to hesitate for a moment before saying, "So expensive? Okay, give me 20 kilograms of first-grade high-quality spiritual rice and 20 kilograms of first-grade high-quality monster meat. By the way, give me 30 kilograms of first-grade medium-quality spiritual rice and monster meat, and here are the talismans, count them." After that, Wei Hong took out 8 evil-killing talismans and 12 Scorching Sun talismans and handed them over. Hearing Wei Hong's decision to buy, the stall owner raised his head and said expressionlessly, "Okay." He first took the talismans handed over by Wei Hong and counted them. After confirming that they were correct and putting them in the storage bag, he packed the supplies Wei Hong needed and handed them over. Wei Hong glanced at him indifferently, took the supplies and put them in the storage bag. Then he repeated the same trick again. After leaving the black market, he found a secret corner with no one around to change his identity and appearance, and re-entered the black market to start small-scale purchases. In this way, Wei Hong spent dozens of evil-killing talismans and Scorching Sun talismans, bought hundreds of kilograms of spiritual rice and monster meat, and even bought more than 10 first-grade monster skins. It can be said that he had a lot of harvest. Of course, he didn't touch any of those magic tools and spells. because he planned to make all the monster skins into talisman skins and then draw talismans after returning, and then plunder and buy them. In this way, not only can the cost be greatly reduced, but also a lot of good things can be bought, which is simply killing two birds with one stone. In addition, he did not forget to buy some spiritual ink needed for drawing talismans. After he changed his identity for the last time to make a deal, Wei Hong finally smiled secretly with satisfaction. Haha, now I don't have to worry about the problem of supplies. As for the remaining things, I'll come back next time. After that, he looked at the various good things on the black market with a little reluctance, and then turned around and walked out of the black market without hesitation. This time, he planned to return directly to the underground palace. But before Wei Hong really walked out of the black market, he found something wrong. What's going on? Wei Hong's face changed slightly, because he noticed that several malicious eyes were suddenly focused on him. Being targeted. Wei Hong calmed down at this time, but he had already made a judgment in his heart. He was obviously being targeted, but he didn't know when he was targeted. Wei Hong walked forward without changing his pace, thinking secretly in his heart, it shouldn't be. I changed my identity and appearance every time, and I didn't buy much supplies every time. How could I be targeted? Unless those supplies are bait set by others. When Wei Hong thought that the monster skins and other supplies he bought were baits thrown by others, he felt cold in his heart. In fact, what he thought was right. It turned out that the monster skins and talisman skins in the black market had long been monopolized by several major forces that opened the black market. The reason why there are so many monster skins and talisman skins on the market is that these supplies are all deliberately thrown out by those forces to fish. What fish are they fishing for? Of course, it is Wei Hong, who is currently the most scarce talisman painter. After all, who else but the talisman painter would buy so many monster skins and talisman skins at this time? Therefore, anyone who buys these materials is most likely a talisman painter. Wei Hong only thought about the connection between these things once, and he guessed it almost right. He didn't expect that he had been so careful and kept changing his identity and appearance to purchase, but still got into trouble. Damn it, I knew this black market was not that simple. Wei Hong cursed in his heart. In fact, he also knew that the reason why he was exposed was probably because he was the only one who bought monster skins in the same period of time, so even if he changed his identity more, his identity as a formation master was still guessed. In this way, it was inevitable to be targeted. Moreover, Wei Hong could also think that the reason why those powerful groups deliberately released those monster skins to fish was to capture some formation masters to draw exorcism talismans such as the evil killing talisman and the scorching sun talisman for them, rather than to steal money and kill people. After all, at this time, a talisman painter who can draw the evil killing talisman is definitely a hot commodity in everyone's eyes. As long as such a formation master can be controlled, those forces can continuously produce exorcism talismans, so that the monks in those forces can greatly improve their chances of survival, which is no less important than living supplies such as spiritual rice. After thinking about these problems clearly, Wei Hong had a plan in his mind. These people were obviously coming for him, but since they wanted to capture him back, they would definitely not kill him at the first time, and their shots would naturally not be very cruel. In this way, he would have a chance to escape the encirclement. Thinking this in his heart, his steps did not change at all. After walking out of the black market step by step, Wei Hong could clearly sense that several gazes appeared around him again. You are well prepared, are you really afraid that I will run away? Feeling the eyes of those around him gathered on him, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel cold in his heart. At this moment, Wei Hong had clearly seen through his peripheral vision that there were more than 10 figures surrounding him, and after he left the black market, they began to slowly converge towards him. Chapter 522, Pursuit, Fury. Since you are looking for death, then you can't blame me. Looking at the more than 10 figures gathered around, Wei Hong's eyes flashed with a fierce murderous intent. Since he inevitably caused trouble and made himself accidentally targeted, Wei Hong would no longer regret his previous purchase of supplies. After all, those supplies had to be bought anyway, so he only needed to consider how to solve the trouble in front of him. At this time, there was no one else outside the black market, so the more than 10 figures surrounding him seemed extremely abrupt and obvious. Seeing this, Wei Hong no longer pretended, took out a magic talisman and slapped it on his leg, and then the whole person's speed skyrocketed and rushed towards the main entrance of the market. Such a change immediately made the faces of the more than 10 monks who surrounded him change. Quick, stop him in front, and don't let him run away. A middle-aged man wearing a blue robe and carrying a flying knife on his back saw Wei Hong's escape and immediately yelled in exasperation. At this moment, he didn't care about being exposed or not. They were clearly planning to kidnap him. Moreover, the target was about to run away. If they didn't act now, they would not be able to catch him. The middle-aged man didn't even need to give orders. The dozen figures around him subconsciously accelerated and surrounded him as soon as they saw Wei Hong running away. Two of them happened to be blocking Wei Hong's escape. At this time, they were already smiling sinisterly and began to pinch their fingers and cast spells. One is at the 5th level of key training, and the other is at the 6th level of key training. Wei Hong looked up at the two cultivators blocking his way. After sensing their cultivation, he felt relieved. Before the two people in front of him could cast spells, Wei Hong threw out two talismans. After being thrown out, the two talismans instantly turned into two huge fireballs, which bombarded the two people respectively. In addition, he pretended to pinch his fingers and chant spells, casting spells while running, and pointed his hand after 2 breaths. Puff! 4 wooden walls appeared instantly, blocking the two monks in front and on the side. In addition, 2 green vines suddenly broke out of the ground under the feet of the two monks, and instantly entangled along the feet of the two monks. The two monks who blocked the road could not help but change their faces. They did not expect Wei Hong's series of attacks to be so swift. Before they could cast the spells in their hands, 2 balls of fire were fiercely bombarded. The two monks who blocked the road immediately withdrew their spells. At this time, they were bound by the vines and could not hide. So they could only slap a Vajra talisman on themselves first, and then gritted their teeth and drew out a flying sword to slash the fireballs that were bombarding in front of them. Puff! Boom! The two monks who blocked the road were not weak. With the sharpness of the flying swords in their hands and the attached spiritual power, they directly split the fireballs, so that the fireball talisman did not play much power, and only 2 small sounds were heard. However, just when the two men split the fireballs, they were no longer able to stop Wei Hong because of the obstruction of the wooden wall and the restraint of the vines, so Wei Hong quickly rushed through them and continued to run towards the gate of the market. Come on, if you really dare to chase me, I won't be polite. Wei Hong sneered in his heart while running. With his current strength, it is too easy to kill the two cultivators who are only in the middle stage of key training. He doesn't even need to use magic tools, just a few simple instant spells are enough to kill them. But Wei Hong didn't want to kill people so close to the black market entrance, which would easily attract more enemies. And he didn't want to expose his trump card in strength of being able to cast spells instantly, so he pretended and didn't kill people immediately, but created a false impression that he couldn't fight against so many enemies. Of course, if these people really dared to continue chasing, Wei Hong wouldn't need to be polite to them anymore, and he could just choose a more hidden place to do it directly. As expected, seeing Wei Hong escape from their encirclement, the middle-aged man leading the group was instantly furious. Chase, quickly catch up. When passing by the two monks who blocked the road, the middle-aged man glared at them fiercely. The two monks who blocked the road only then smashed the wooden wall and cut the 2 vines, so they immediately chased after him, their eyes filled with anger. How, you really dare to come? Wei Hong didn't need to look back to know that the more than 10 pursuers behind him had never given up. There was a cold light in his eyes, but his footsteps did not stop for a moment. Moreover, he deliberately controlled his speed, keeping a distance that the pursuers behind him could not catch up temporarily but seemed to be able to catch up at any time. Wei Hong specifically chose those more remote paths to escape, and did not attract much attention along the way. Soon, Wei Hong saw the abandoned shop in front of him. That was the location of the tunnel entrance where he was hiding, and it was also the battlefield he chose. As long as he entered the tunnel and then took action, he was not afraid of being seen by others. Moreover, setting up the battlefield in the tunnel was also to prevent the pursuers behind him from escaping. He was prepared to kill all the enemies. The tunnel was narrow and long, and it was not so easy to escape. At this time, Wei Hong rushed into the half-ruined shop with a whoosh. When he came to the hidden entrance of the tunnel, he moved the broken wall above and jumped down without thinking. Obviously, he knew that once the pursuers behind him found this tunnel entrance, they would definitely chase him down. Sure enough, the middle-aged man in the lead looked at Wei Hong's back and rushed into the shop. He looked anxious and immediately accelerated to chase him. However, after entering this half-ruined shop, the middle-aged man couldn't help but change his face slightly. Where are the people? Where did they go? He actually lost the sense of Wei Hong's breath. But after chasing a few steps forward, he saw the extremely obvious entrance to the tunnel. Huh? A tunnel? When did a tunnel appear here? The middle-aged man looked even uglier, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. The dozen monks behind him also chased after him, and were even more surprised when they saw the tunnel. What's going on? Where are the people? Why is there a tunnel leading to the underground here? That person went in. Senior Lan, what should we do now? Yes, should we continue to chase him? Faced with such an unknown and possibly dangerous tunnel, the dozen monks hesitated. However, the middle-aged man's face turned ruthless, and he waved his hand without hesitation. Chase him, I'll take the blame if anything happens. Follow me, and never let this person go. After saying that, the middle-aged man immediately jumped down. Chapter 523 Murder in the Underground Palace. Wei Hong was very fast. He was very familiar with the tunnel and soon walked more than 100 feet along the newly dug passage. At this time, he just came to a fork in the road, which connected to another tunnel leading to another direction. Almost done. If we go any further, we will expose the location of the underground palace. After arriving here, Wei Hong finally stopped. However, his hands did not stop at all. He reached out and touched the storage bag, and a formation plate and several formation flags appeared in his hand. Then he threw them directly, and the formation flags immediately shot out and inserted into several positions in the tunnel. At the same time, Wei Hong's spiritual power was injected into the formation plate in his hand. He kept muttering in his mouth, and several spiritual stones were also thrown to the designated location. The next moment, a white light curtain rose directly at this fork in the road, connecting the positions of several formation flags, and directly transformed into a regular light curtain. It's done. Seeing the light curtain appear, Wei Hong couldn't help but grin. This formation was the first-class middle-grade defensive formation for symbols formation. With the cooperation of the formation plate and the formation flag, he could set up the formation very quickly. The actions just now seemed complicated, but in fact they were completed in just a few breaths. Then, Wei Hong sent a spiritual power to the formation plate, and the white light curtain immediately disappeared. The three-way intersection also immediately returned to its original appearance, and there was no trace of the formation fluctuation. Wei Hong did not use the formation to hide his figure, but moved forward a little and waited for a while. When he heard the dense and chaotic footsteps behind him, he pretended to continue to flee. However, his speed had already slowed down, and he only needed to turn around the three-way intersection to see his back immediately. Sure enough, the next moment Wei Hong heard a shout from behind. Quick, I can sense the breath of that person again. He is in front. Chase him. The middle-aged man in the blue robe was more and more angry, and he wanted to catch up with Wei Hong immediately and teach him a lesson. When they first entered the tunnel, it was impossible to say that they were not worried. The middle-aged man was also very careful, fearing that there were traps waiting for them. However, he observed that the tunnel was newly dug, and it would not even be more than a day old. This meant that such a tunnel should not be likely to be trapped, so he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. And after chasing for a distance, the middle-aged man found that there were indeed no traps. In this way, the middle-aged man was completely relieved, and the pursuit speed was greatly improved. Soon they saw a three-way intersection in front, and at this time the middle-aged man also sensed the breath that Wei Hong deliberately exposed. So the middle-aged man shouted excitedly and immediately accelerated the pursuit, wanting to turn the right angle in front and catch up with Wei Hong immediately. The more than 10 monks behind him also followed his pace. Naturally, more than 10 monks led by the middle-aged man stepped into the four symbols formation arranged by Wei Hong. Stay with me. Wei Hong turned around suddenly, looking very excited. He immediately manipulated the array plate and activated the array with all his strength. Then a solid white light curtain immediately appeared around the middle-aged man and others, covering them all. Array. The middle-aged man immediately stopped with a change of expression. The more than 10 monks behind him were even more panicked, and they couldn't help but look a little confused. No one expected that a formation would suddenly appear at this narrow fork in the road, and they all stepped into the formation, obviously being plotted by the enemy. However, the middle-aged man in the lead was not panicked, and reacted very quickly. He immediately shouted, "Quick, everyone, Go all out and blast this formation together. All formations have an upper limit. Once the attack on the formation exceeds the upper limit it can bear, the formation will be broken and completely ineffective. This is what the middle-aged man had in mind. He didn't believe that this formation could stop more than 10 of them from attacking together. After saying that, the middle-aged man immediately made hand gestures to prepare for casting a spell, and the more than 10 monks behind him also suddenly realized and hurriedly followed suit. But since Wei Hong had already calculated, how could he give them a chance to break through the formation? He waved his hand and quickly mobilized the spiritual power in his body. At this moment, more than 20 sharp earth spikes immediately broke out of the ground in the formation at the fork in the road, and stabbed the middle-aged man and others from bottom to top, which seemed both abrupt and terrifying. Not only that, there was also water mist in the formation, and the next moment dozens of blue water arrows emerged from the air, cooperating with the earth thort technique to shoot fiercely at the middle-aged man and others. No, get out of the way. The middle-aged man was horrified when he saw this, and finally panicked. He roared, and the spell that had not yet been prepared was not released in time. The whole person immediately jumped to the side, and a layer of yellow light shield appeared on his body at the same time. The other dozen monks were even more horrified. No one expected that the opponent's spellcasting speed would be so fast. So they no longer cared about casting spells to bombard the formation, but used various means to dodge. They dared not hide the defensive talismans and defensive magic tools in their hands, and used them desperately. But Wei Hong's choice of this battlefield was not without reason. This fork in the road was not spacious. At this time, more than 10 middle-aged men were crowded together. Even if they wanted to dodge, there was not much space at all, not to mention that the four symbols formation also restricted their dodge range. As Wei Hong expected, the next moment, a shrill scream came from the formation. "Ah! Senior Lan, help! Help me!" 6 or 7 monks in the middle stage of key training were either unable to dodge and were pierced through the body by earth spikes, or pierced with several blood holes by water arrows. The smell of blood spread immediately, and 4 of the monks who were hit by earth spikes and water arrows died on the spot. Only the middle-aged cultivator in the late stage of key training, relying on his higher cultivation and several defensive talismans in his hands, was able to block the bombardment of 2 earth spikes and 5 water arrows without being injured. However, this also made the middle-aged man horrified. He had no time to regret at this time. His thoughts turned sharply and he immediately made the most correct response. He raised his flying sword, condensed most of his spiritual power into the flying sword, and then slashed at the formation in front of him, trying to use it to split a way to escape. The middle-aged man already understood that if he didn't escape now, he might never have a chance to escape. Chapter 524. Do you really think I'm a soft persimmon? Hey, you want to escape? Wei Hong couldn't help but sneer at the middle-aged man's actions. They were both at the 7th level of key training, and the 4 symbols formation was a defensive formation of the 1st level middle grade. With him personally in charge, how easy would it be to break the formation? But Wei Hong would not let the enemy attack the formation at will, so he waved his hand violently. Swish! 4 thick earth walls suddenly appeared out of thin air, blocking the formation. Puff! The middle-aged man's flying sword chopped at the earth wall but failed to break it, but cut a crack more than 10 feet long. At this time, Wei Hong had already launched the second wave of attack. More than a dozen huge fireballs appeared out of thin air and bombarded the surviving monks. More than a dozen golden threads that were difficult to detect with the naked eye also swept across silently at this time, and Wei Hong also stretched out his hand and pointed, and the 4 earth walls suddenly squeezed inwards, as if they wanted to crush all the monks into meat patties. Swish, swish, swish. The surviving monks were already extremely horrified, and at this time they didn't care about hiding any means. So all kinds of talismans were thrown out like they were free, trying to block the bombardment of the fireball. They were also trying to cast spells, trying to cooperate with the middle-aged man to break the formation. But no one noticed that the golden threads had already cut across slowly but quickly. Puff! Ah! A monk near the earth wall was about to cast a spell, but the whole person was suddenly cut in half silently. It was not until blood spurted out from the broken part of his smooth waist that screams were heard. What? Another monk in front of him turned his head after hearing the sound, and was immediately frightened by this scene and his face turned pale. However, before he could react, a faint golden light suddenly flashed under his eyes. Puff! The monk was also cut in half directly, but the wound was extremely smooth, as if it was cut by an extremely sharp weapon. He was killed on the spot without any reaction. This golden light spiritual silk art, which was originally used to split the talisman skin, became one of Wei Hong's hidden killing weapons after it was maxed out to the limit. The body of an ordinary cultivator could not stop the cutting of the golden silk, and it could be said that it would be dead if it touched it. Of course, if you are prepared in advance, it is not difficult to block those golden silk threads, but the magic of those golden silk threads is that they are very hidden. The two cultivators were suddenly cut in half, which directly attracted the attention of all the surviving cultivators. At this time, their faces were full of horror and their eyes were desperate. How could they not understand that they had clearly provoked a terrible and powerful enemy, and it was they who jumped in impatiently? It was useless to regret at this time. All they could do was to do their best to block the enemy's attack. The middle-aged cultivator's eyes were even more crazy, and he was obviously ready to fight to the death. But Wei Hong had already lost his patience. He saw him pinching his hands and suddenly urging the spiritual power in his body. At the same time, a stream of spiritual power also hit the array plate. Boom! 4 different lights and shadows suddenly appeared in the 4 symbols formation, which were the appearances of Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird and Black Tortoise. The 4 lights and shadows merged into one instantly after they appeared, causing the middle-aged man and others to feel their bodies suddenly sink. This is another major effect of the 4 symbols formation, gravity. It can exert 3 times the gravity on the target, enough to make the target fall into a situation where it is difficult to move. As expected, when this layer of the formation effect was exerted, the surviving monks were all like being stuck in a quagmire, unable to move their bodies at all. The next breath, 2 more monks were unable to dodge and were cut off by the golden silk thread. At the same time, more than a dozen sharp earth spikes broke out of the ground again. This time, except for the middle-aged man who luckily escaped, the other monks could no longer escape. They were either cut off by the golden silk thread or pierced through the body by the earth spikes, and died on the spot. Facing Wei Hong's extremely powerful instant spell, ordinary monks really couldn't resist it. Especially those cultivators whose strength and realm were lower than his. Faced with various instantaneous spells, they might not even have time to cast spells, and might be killed directly by Wei Hong. The middle-aged man felt like he was falling into an ice cave when he saw the bloody and cruel scene in front of him. Die? The middle-aged man could no longer hold back and roared like crazy. He then slapped a golden talisman on himself, and the talisman instantly turned into golden armor covering him. Then he took out a black unknown pill and swallowed it directly, and the next moment his aura suddenly soared. Are you going to fight to the death? Seeing the middle-aged man's actions, Wei Hong couldn't help but frown. But he couldn't stop it at all, so he didn't make any move, just watched from across the formation, and didn't act rashly. The middle-aged man, whose aura had soared, had red eyes and was like a madman. The golden silk thread cut on his armor, leaving only shallow marks, but failed to break the armor, which surprised Wei Hong. Then the middle-aged man took a heavy step forward and chopped down with the flying sword in his hand again. Obviously, he had understood that if he didn't break the formation, he would not be able to survive and leave. If he wanted to survive, he had to break the formation to escape. Boom! The earth wall in front of the formation was directly chopped into pieces by a sword, and then the white light curtain of the formation also rippled slightly. The middle-aged man planned to block all attacks with a golden armor, and then break the formation as soon as possible to escape. Unfortunately, how could Wei Hong give him such a chance? It's time to end. Wei Hong said softly. As soon as the voice fell, dozens of golden silk threads quickly cut across. It was just a turtle shell, and it was not difficult for Wei Hong to smash it. The middle-aged man obviously had no more means. Facing the dense and cross-cutting golden threads, his eyes could not help but show despair, as well as deep regret and helplessness. Chi. The extremely sharp golden threads kept cutting the surface of the golden armor, leaving shallow cracks one after another. Under such an offensive, the surface of the armor was quickly covered with cracks. Soon, before the middle-aged man wanted to make a final blow, the armor was directly cut through, turning into golden light floating in the air, and the middle-aged monk was cut in half like other monks. Blood spurted out like a fountain, and the middle-aged man's upper body fell heavily to the ground. His eyes still contained strong resentment and despair until his death. Oh, do you really think I'm a soft person? Seeing that all the enemies had been killed, Wei Hong couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. This battle, he won a great victory. Chapter 525, After the War, Touching the Corpse. The tunnel was calm again. Wei Hong took out the array plate and manipulated it to remove the array. Then he took back all the array flags, and this allowed the three-way intersection to truly return to its original appearance. However, there were more than a dozen incomplete corpses at the scene, and blood was flowing everywhere. Wei Hong turned a blind eye to this. He walked to the body of the middle-aged man, gently took off the storage bag on his waist, with no expression on his face, and then searched more than a dozen other corpses one after another. He searched 7 or 8 storage bags alone, and there were more than 10 talismans that had not been used up in his arms. In addition, all the magic tools used by the middle-aged man and others were collected by him. Then Wei Hong waved his hand, and several flames appeared in the tunnel, wrapping all the more than 10 corpses in it, and they were burned to ashes in a short while. At this point, the middle-aged man and more than 10 people disappeared completely from the world. Then Wei Hong turned around without any hesitation and ran towards the tunnel entrance at the entrance of the market. Since the tunnel entrance had been discovered, and the middle-aged man and his men had died because of it, he could not leave such an obvious entrance to prevent his hiding place from being discovered. Wei Hong soon returned to the tunnel entrance. He carefully restrained his breath, and jumped out of the tunnel entrance without finding anything unusual, and found that others had indeed discovered this place. This tunnel entrance can't be left open, otherwise someone will track us down soon. Wei Hong made up his mind. So he jumped into the tunnel entrance again, and stepped back a few steps. He first threw a few talismans out of the tunnel entrance, and then immediately cast a spell. Boom! The half-collapsed shops outside were immediately blown down, and then the tunnel entrance that Wei Hong dug was completely covered. Wei Hong then used the sand and mud fossilization technique to restore the tunnel entrance to its original state, then stepped back a distance, and repeated the same trick to collapse the tunnel in front of him. The mud fell down, and soon blocked the tunnel in front of Wei Hong. Then Wei Hong was still worried, and he continued to collapse a long section of the tunnel. He stopped when he almost reached the fork in the road, and he continued to use the sand fossilization technique on the collapsed tunnel. Then, he cleared all the traces of battle left on the battlefield at the fork in the road, and blew away all the ashes of the more than 10 corpses. This was considered a complete success. That's almost it. Those people on the ground can't find this place again. Looking at the collapsed tunnel in front of him, Wei Hong finally smiled with satisfaction. At this time, he was in a good mood. Not only did he buy a large number of daily necessities, but also more than 10 or 20 monster skins, plus the spoils looted from the middle-aged man and others. The harvest of this outing was very rich. Moreover, he did not expose the location of the tunnel, so even if those forces outside wanted to find him, it would be impossible. In this way, no one could disturb his quiet life. Not bad, not bad, it's worth my risk to go out once. Thinking of the full harvest here, Wei Hong couldn't help grinning and said, "This harvest is enough for me to retreat for a while. Even if the outside becomes purgatory, it has nothing to do with me." Thinking of this in his heart, Wei Hong raised his foot and returned to the underground palace. Now he doesn't need to worry about daily necessities, so he decided to prepare for a period of retreat. Not only must he practice well, but he must also draw a batch of evil-killing talismans as soon as possible. After all, there are so many good things sold in the black market outside. Wei Hong is very greedy. It is absolutely impossible for him to miss it. Now there are many crises outside the market, and the market is in chaos. Various struggles and fights are one after another. If Wei Hong can retreat under the underground palace all the time, he can naturally avoid all crises. Thinking of this, his steps became lighter. Soon, he returned to the stone wall hall in the underground palace. He thought about it, but turned his footsteps and walked towards the ground. After returning to the ground, Wei Hong looked at his familiar bedroom but did not stay for long. He first went to the courtyard to observe the situation. After finding nothing unusual, he immediately returned to the bedroom and put all the things he could use into the storage bag, ready to take them to the underground palace. This time, he was going to stay in the underground palace and live in seclusion, and never care about the things above. Even if someone came to him, he did not need to respond, so all the daily necessities and tools had to be moved down. After doing all this, he went directly back to the underground palace. However, Wei Hong still did not rest, but placed all the daily necessities and tools such as talisman drawing and making in the proper places. After finishing all these trivial matters, Wei Hong returned to the practice room and sat cross-legged. Then, he took out 7 storage bags from his arms and lined them up in front of him. These storage bags were collected from the middle-aged man and others who were chasing him. Now that these spoils have been obtained, he naturally wants to see if there is anything in them that can surprise him. The first storage bag that Wei Hong picked up was from the middle-aged man. He stretched out his hand to open it and then tilted the bag down. Crash! A lot of things fell out and piled up half a person's height in front of Wei Hong. There are quite a lot of things. Wei Hong raised his eyebrows slightly. He first picked out all the spirit stones from the pile of miscellaneous items, about more than 500. After putting all the small pile of spirit stones into his storage bag, he continued to pick and choose. 5 first-grade top-grade monster skins? Haha, not bad. Oh? There are also hundreds of first-grade top-grade talisman skins, which is not bad either. 3 bottles of key-enhancing pills, 2 bottles of Yuanyang pills, and 2 bottles of Huangjing pills. Plus the ones I bought from the black market before, I will not be short of pills for the time being. Hey, this person actually carries dozens of kilograms of first-grade top-grade spirit rice and monster meat. This is a pleasant surprise. Wei Hong couldn't stop talking to himself while picking and choosing. He found that although the middle-aged man's wealth was not very rich, and he had no magic spells or magic tools, nor talismans or elixir recipes, the things he brought with him still made Wei Hong very satisfied. Because whether it was elixir or daily necessities, as well as monster skins and talisman skins, they were all the things he needed most at the moment. With this batch of supplies, plus what he bought himself, it was enough for him to retreat for a long time, which made Wei Hong very happy. Good man, I just happened to meet someone who gave me a pillow when I was dozing off, ha ha ha. Such a harvest made Wei Hong laugh immediately. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.